So dumb, mysterious. Got your shades on your eyes and your heels so high that you can't even have a good time. Everybody look to the left, everybody look to the right. Can you feel that we're paying with love tonight? It's not about the money, money, money. We don't need your money, money, money. Just wanna make the world dance. Forget about the price tag. It ain't about it. Cha-ching, cha-ching in the body. The bling, wanna make the world dance. Forget about the price tag. Yeah. We need to take it back in time, when music made us all unite. And it wasn't low blows and video holes. Am I the only one getting tired? Why is everybody so upset? Money can buy us happiness. Can we all slow down and enjoy right now? Guaranteed we'll be feeling good, right? Everybody look to the left, everybody look to the right. Can you feel it? We're paying with love tonight. It's not about the money, money, money. We don't need the money, money, money. Just wanna make the world dance. Forget about the price tag. He ain't about it. Cha-ching in the body. The blank, wanna make the world dance. Forget about the price tag. Say, come on. Where you can stay forever, you can be sure that we only get better. You want me together through the days and nights. I don't worry, cause everything's gonna be alright. People keep talking, nothing say what they like. what you hate and what you've done the other day. And Father, 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 ever send some guidance from above. Cause people got me questioning, where is the love? Where is the love? Where is the love? Where is the love? The love, the love. Where is the love? Where is the love? The love, the
Gentlemen, a huge round of applause for Jenna Freak.
Band.
I mean, we could do better than that. A round of applause for Jenna Freak, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, EMK, Mr. Edgar, tell me what you think. I feel I'm a part of Jenna Freak right now.
Jenna Freak Band, a third round of applause for that particular band. They're doing an amazing work. Thank you so much. Making the evening colorful. Is it evening? It's actually afternoon.
Yes, it is a lovely afternoon. I hope you enjoyed the band. EMK, you're ready to do this?
Yes, I am ready to do this. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. Things and championing solutions in Uganda and the rest of Africa. We are trying to redefine how stories are told in Africa and about Africa.
I see you're very passionate already, but it is only prudent that we actually start with a prayer, right?
Of course, of course.
Yes, we need to invite the Lord right here in this presence. And of course, we will also have some anthems. So I hope we have our voices with us.
Yeah.
But right about now, EMK, you want to lead us with a prayer?
Let me give the honor to anybody who is in the audience who feels like they want to pray for us.
I know someone.
There's a gentleman looking at me. Yeah, guys, a round of applause for Caleb as he leads us in the prayer.
Lord Heavenly Father, we thank you for today. We thank you for this particular launch, that Lord, you shall enable us get a whole experience, and as we start, Lord, that you shall take us through the whole experience, and that we shall learn lots of things, that we shall be able to tell better stories that glorify your name. In your name we prayed. Amen.
Amen. Thank you so much, Caleb. And of course, it's time for the anthems. But before we go for the anthems, allow me welcome the people who are viewing us online. You're most welcome to the launch of Solutions Now Africa. My name is Edgar Matthew Karuhanga, your host tonight. I am a fact checker with Debunk Media Initiative, and I am with the lovely
Tracy Kansime, and I work with MCI Radio. I'm a radio host. Super excited to be a part of this evening, and of course the unveiling of Solutions Now Africa, the team and the newsroom. Are you excited?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Are you excited, guys? Want to listen to some music? Are you excited? All right.
Okay, you know what? Let's do this.
Yeah.
This side. Are you excited for Solutions Now Africa? A huge round of applause.
Yeah.
Okay.
This other side.
I can't hear you.
Excited. There's something missing. I feel there's something missing.
No, let me tell you, there's a group at the back that's unrepresented. I can't hear you, the group at the back. Solutions Now.
Yeah, now that's the group. That's the group.
Exactly.
And I think we should get someone from that group to actually lead us in the anthems. Yes, from the backbenchers. Where is Tamukede running?
I am about to find Love for Country here.
Yes.
Love for Country. Love for Country. Bella Twine.
Yeah. Bella will
a
lead
whole
us
round
in
of
the
applause for a huge debunker, Bella Twine, and CEO Tuli Concepts.
Yes. All right.
Okay. Let us stand up. Oh, Uganda, oh, Uganda,
may God uphold thee. We lay our future in thy hands. United free for liberty, together we'll always stand. All right.
Mungu
Twaomba uilinde Jumuiya Afrika Mashariki, tuwezeshe kuishi kwa amani, tutimize na malengo yetu. Jumuiya yetu sote tuilinde, tuwajibike, tuimarike. Umoja wetu ni nguzo yetu, idumu jumuiya yetu. Wow, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you. First of all, we would love to thank each and every one of you who is here tonight.
Yes.
It's really an honor to have all of you here to really be witness as we launch solutions to the rest of the world. Isn't that something that is amazing?
Absolutely amazing. Personally, I am one that's about journalism can make the world a better place, right?
Yes, please.
Journalism can make the world a better place.
How many believe that journalism can make place?
Do you believe it yourself?
I really believe that. Through how we are telling our stories, that's how we are going to make the world a better place. And what else than to tell solutions? This is not something that is told.
Also change narratives. Yeah. So this is very important. Today it's very important because changing narratives is something very important. And since we're talking narratives, right?
Yes.
I want to find out from the audience. No, actually, before the audience, I need to put you on the spot.
Yeah.
What does narrative mean to you? What does it mean? This is such a big word, and I've been hearing you throwing it around. Yes. Narrative, change narratives. EMK.
Narrative is how things are perceived, or something is perceived from various angles. How does one see something? For example, many people have talked about the African narrative, which is what people know about Africa. But oftentimes, is this the fact? Is it true? Is what you know about Africa really what Africa is all about? And that's where Solutions Now Africa comes in. Solutions Now is championing telling of solutions that are working, because many people are telling stories about Africa. They are telling how maybe we are ravaged by war, we are ravaged by disease, but not many of them have actually really documented what is working. There are very many things that are working in Africa. And because of that, Solutions Now has come to bridge that particular gap, to make sure that you know about these solutions. And maybe to just ask you, when you know what solutions are working, how do you take it as a person? Is there something that is going to change? I believe communities are changing, because we shall know that there is something that is working somewhere, and there are people who will come and replicate that in Africa or somewhere else. So we want the whole world to start knowing that there are various things that are working in Africa. So that is how we are changing the narrative. What do you think?
Personally, I think that is true, and I think narrative is two-sided. Narratives is simply a story. So you have your story. I have my story, right? But you have a way you perceive my story, and I have a way I perceive your story. The rest of the world has perceived Africa a different way, okay? But what are we doing about telling the story that we are, that we live on a daily? Solutions, innovations, all these things that I never tell you about, right?
Yes.
And guess what? Solutions Now Africa is here to make sure we know what's working. And that is very exciting. Are you ready to meet the team that's behind
There are
this?
people, there are young people that are doing great stuff at Solutions Now Africa.
I'm telling you, they're not ready. The stories that are being written about my country, your country, this continent, you will be amazed, but well.
And
I
someone
think it's
actually
time.
just sent a message via Zoom, and they're saying that Solutions Now is also countering problems that are happening in the society. So that is really, really something that is so amazing. If there are people who are actually looking at the problem, and as the problem is going, there is a solution coming out. So Solutions Now Africa is looking at that. And it brings me to a time of welcoming Kanan Arinda, a member of Solutions Now Africa, who is going to be unveiling the rest of the team to us. Ladies and gentlemen, a round of applause for Kanan Arinda.
Journalists. You see, we are the watchdogs of society. But you see, the dangerous thing about watchdogs is they are trained to look for thieves, to look for drug dealers. Hell, they can even find bombers. They're trained to find every wrong thing in the society. And the painful thing is, as the Fourth Estate, we've mirrored exactly that. Young journalists all across the globe are taught in Journalism 101 that a bad story makes the best headline. But that's not how our world truly is. That's not how my world is. There's so many amazing, wonderful, and beautiful things that are happening in our communities every single day. Every single day. But ladies and gentlemen, the question is, who tells those stories?
From the tears of joy to the smiles of hope, we assume the duty of ensuring that men, women, and children shall consume the media. From the tears of joy to the smiles of hope, we assume the duty of ensuring that men, women, and children shall consume the media content that truly reflects and represents the society they live in. Brick by brick, we want to work and win with you.
So through lenses, we commit to creating narratives that create possibilities for communities to work through challenges and create homegrown solutions to what the rest of the world would refer to as problems.
And thus, we are the platform that shows how to fix it as opposed to where it's broken. We commit to producing immersive stories on innovations, models, and systems that are working in Uganda and Africa.
On air and online, we seek to be Africa's new voice of journalistic renewal. We believe that it is not just enough to keep telling people about how Africa is being negatively portrayed or how it is rising. The continuous drumming about the existing negative narratives cannot necessarily create change.
And we shall not stop at inspiring stories of innovation, but we shall document succinctly the evidence of their impact. Our teams will comb the nook and cranny of communities for challenges and possibilities in order for us to create a perfect representation of the continent that we dearly love.
documenting positive and working stories in our community. I am Kanan Arinda.
I'm Ronit Atwini.
I am Amos Desmond Wambi.
I'm Helen Kabahukia.
My name is Dan Ayebale.
My name is Richard Mugambe.
Yeah. Whoa. Yes. Thank you so much, J Afrique Band. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Solutions Now Africa. A round of applause for them. They really deserve it.
Yes. Absolutely amazing.
Yeah, they are young, charismatic, young people with one person who says, don't call me young. The editor, Amos, he says he's an old man. They're young people with an old man, and they are changing and redefining how we see Africa.
Edgar, don't they look like a bunch of solutions waiting to be
Solutions
written?
everywhere.
Yes! Solutions that are happening here in Uganda and across East Africa and Africa. Yes. But I think it's only fair that we call the man, the CEO Media Challenge Initiative, one of the leading champions of solution journalism here in Uganda. Ladies and gentlemen,
Mr. Bass.
Pindi Abbas.
Get me a microphone. Hello, how are you doing? Clap for these guys. It's a pleasure to have you here. So I want to give these guys flowers before they go off stage, so that you know who they are, what they do, how amazing they are. So when we talk about solutions journalism, it can be a behavior, it can be a practice, it can be a model, it can be an approach, it can be just a belief. For us here, it's a culture. It's what we've decided to use as a tool for social change. It's also what we've decided to use as a tool to challenge the negative narratives about our continent. And we hope that the work that these young journalists are doing will help us, one, to challenge the negative narratives that are out there, but also two, for them to begin seeing themselves not only as journalists, but also as leaders. Because at the end of the day, when we talk about agenda setting, what we actually mean is setting the agenda that shows our continent in a different light, right? That shows our continent that there is urgency, there is power, there are innovations, and there are things that are being done out there. So these guys are leading that change from here, the MCI Media Hub. And they know that each story that they publish online and on different platforms will create either a smile out there, or it will lead to another person being able to replicate that change. So thank you so much, guys. You know that I believe in you guys. I don't even know how I can explain it. But this is your day. We're celebrating you. So congratulations, and you can have a seat. Clap for these guys. All right. So I have been at this game of solutions journalism for since 2016. I first learned about it online when we were trying to create the Media Challenge Initiative as a platform. And we wanted to see what other unique thing could we bring into the system. How could we change the way we are practicing journalism? And for the since 2016, all the young journalists have gone through our academy and our fellowship program, have an idea of what journalism should do at the end of the day. And for us here is to make the world a better place. And you could be a filmmaker, you could be an actor or actress, you could be a journalist, you could be a poet, you could be anything. But at the core of it, as an African or as a Ugandan, you need to know that you're dealing with hundreds of years of negativity that has been out there. And that is going to be either through one-on-one conversations you have with different people from different countries, or it's going to be through the stories that you're telling. So today I'm very excited, particularly because I call her my mentor, she's online. Her name is Moki. She's amazing. That's all I can tell you. So Moki is the executive director of the Africa No Filter. And they were the first organization not only to believe in us, but also to give us a grant that our young journalists can use to start, because we're an NGO, so we don't have money. But for someone to be out there and say, I believe in this idea of using solutions journalism to challenge narratives and to show the different working models in our communities, we applaud Africa No Filter for that. So please clap for them. We also have the Konrad Adenauer Stiftung, who I think are represented here by Judith, a team. They are also here, but they have also, CAS has been part of our journey since 2016, and they know what we've been working on, and they know what this newsroom is all about. And then we have DW Academy, represented by Jonathan over there. Equally, DW Academy has been part of this journey since 2017. And they know the fellowship program, they know what solutions journalism or constructive journalism and what we intend to achieve with that. And then recently we have the Sigo Family Foundation that has also come on board to support us. So please clap for our partners, because that's very important. And now, without wasting time, we have a keynote statement from Moki, the executive director of Africa No Filter. She has a huge bio, superstar, narrative, change maker, everything that you can think about. She's online and she's going to be speaking to us about, narratives and how to storytelling and framing the different stories for this continent. And please, whether you're a filmmaker, a poet, or a journalist, pay attention and get to understand. So Moki, are you there? Hello? Moki, can you hear me? Yes? Okay. Technology. Are you having fun tonight? You guys having fun? Not yet? Not yet. We have a band, we have a cocktail, we get to dance. So there's no party here at MCI that happens without those things. So if you haven't, started having fun, I think you should best believe that that's going to happen. The tech team, are we there? All right. Yay! Moki, can you hear me? We're trying to fix the sound, but if you can hear me and see me on your end, perfect. That's great. So sound team, can we get this fixed? Otherwise, we are not paying someone. So the amazing human being that you're seeing on the screens, guys, I first met Moki, I think, 2-3 years ago when she visited us at the old MCI office. And by then she was working with the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, and they came and saw what we were doing. Moki stayed in touch, believing in MCI and what we were doing. And I'm so excited that you've been able to join us today, Moki. And I'm more excited that my colleagues here are going to hear some of the knowledge and experience that you're able to share with us. So, we have sound? Okay, Moki, over to you.
Hey, can you hear me? Should I carry on? I don't know if you can hear me.
Just hold it. Sound guy? What happened today? Usually you're fixing things. Clap for the sound guys, everyone. Clap for them again. It's very important to motivate people when things are not going well. That's when we need more motivation. Okay. Are we there now? Sound check, Moki. Another round of applause for the sound team, guys. So sometimes tech can decide to play games on you, even when you have been doing this for a long time. And I guess it's one of those days at the office when you struggle. Yes? Okay, Moki, can you hear me? Can you say something?
I can hear you. Can
Perfect.
you hear me?
Yay!
Great.
So,
Okay.
Moki, over to you. You can give us your keynote statement. Thank you.
Okay, great. Abbas, thank you very much. And it's such a pity that I'm actually not in the room. It feels like there's an amazing energy there. I really want to say congratulations to you, Abbas, for your vision, for making all of this happen. So well done. So I haven't got much time, as in, I know things have sort of slowed down a bit and I can feel the energy. I want to keep it going. So I'm just going to deliver my keynote, which is short and to the point. And it's really around reframing storytelling for Africa, which it's been amazing to hear, the people on the stage talking about it, the MCs talking about it. So I feel like my work is already done. But I have 15 minutes to talk about narratives and how we can reframe the Africa story. So I'm going to start with a story. A couple of weeks ago, I was in Germany, actually, traveling on a train. And I met a Swedish man who asked me what I did. I told him a little bit about the work that I did. And then I asked him, when I say the word Africa, what do you think about? What are the words that come to mind? And I could see he was struggling. He clearly didn't want to offend me. So I said to him, you know what, just tell me what is top of your mind. Just tell me what comes off the top of your head. And he said, well, when I think of Africa, I think of poverty. I think of all these humanitarian crises you have. There's droughts everywhere. I see images of starving people. And then I asked him, have you ever been to Africa before? And he said, no. So I said to him, where are you getting your perceptions about Africa? He stopped for a while and he said to me, it's from the news. It's from the things that I watch and I see on television. That's where I get the image of Africa from. And I tell that story because it illustrates the power journalists have, because we are the lens through which the world sees the rest of the world. Because in most times, most people haven't been to every single country in the world. So I run an organization called Africa No Filter. And at Africa No Filter, I think about narrative every single day. Our job is to actually try and change or shift the harmful and stereotypical narratives that exist about Africa, but also not just about Africa, but also within Africa. So the question is, what is a narrative? And I heard somebody on stage earlier trying to define...
Recording in progress.
Sorry. I heard somebody trying to define what narrative is. And I'm just going to tell you what my definition of narrative is. Narrative is a central belief or a central idea that evolves through the persistent telling of a particular type of story. And when we started Africa No Filter, we sort of went back to try and see what are the persistent stories that are told about Africa. And we discovered there are 5 ways or 5 frames through which most stories about Uganda or Kenya or Nigeria are told. And these are them. The first one is through the lens of poverty. Most of the stories about Africa is through the lens of poverty. Poverty is the hero in that story. The second one is disease. Remember COVID, remember Ebola? Those are the stories that the world likes to hear about us. The third is corruption. The fourth is conflict. And the fifth is poor leadership. When you think about leaders in Africa, we very rarely hear good things about them. It's usually about the things they haven't done or how they're trying to extend power. So poor leadership is one of those frames through which a lot of the stories about Africa are told. So if you think about those 5 frames, poverty, disease, corruption, conflict, and poor leadership, there are 3 persistent narratives that seem to come through. One is that Africa is broken because nothing seems to work. Our organizations, our institutions, our leaders are broken. Second thing is that we are dependent in that we can't seem to be able to do this on our own. We need the rich countries in the north to train us, to build our capacity, to provide funding for us to fix things. And the third narrative is that we lack agency. And this is the one that I think bothers me the most, that as Africans, we don't have the agency to make the change that we need to make. So what? Why should we care about narratives? I think it's important that we care about the negative and the stereotypical narratives because for a lot of reasons, they don't reflect what really goes on in Africa. One of the key things that I feel the impact of narrative has is that it impacts on how the world sees Africa and ultimately how Africa sees itself. It impacts on investments into Africa. If you think this is a poor, poverty-stricken continent, you're not going to bring money, you're not going to make investments, you're not going to do business with Africa. It also impacts the development and aid policies, how global rich countries see us, the money they give to us, and how they apportion those funds. And the fact that most of the funding that's given to NGOs are not local NGOs, they're international NGOs because they don't trust Africans to do the work. It also impacts migration out of Africa. I mean, recently there was a story about how a lot of young Africans, they're despondent, they feel there's no hope, so they're leaving the continent. They're going to Europe, they're going to America because they believe in the American dream. They believe in the European dream. There's no African dream for a lot of young people. And it's in the stories or the lack of stories that we give them. But it's easy to blame international media. And I think as Africans, we need to be careful about whether we point our fingers at the BBC, at CNN, at Deutsche Welle, all of these international organizations that are covering Africa. So in 2020, Africa No Filter, the organization I run, we did some research into how African media covers Africa. And you'll be surprised at some of the results. The first thing we realized that if I'm sitting in South Africa reading a story about Uganda, that story is probably the same story that anybody in the US or the UK is reading. There's no assumption that because we're all considered to be on the same continent that we know anything more than each other. And the problem with that is that, or the reason that happens is that more than 63% of the outlets that we spoke to, they don't have correspondents in other countries. So if a Ugandan newspaper is going to cover something in South Africa, they are dependent on AFP, Reuters, BBC, Al Jazeera, all these other international media outlets that have the funding to cover the continent. So a lot of the stories we're reading are told through the lens of these global publications. So, and a third of all coverage we found was actually bylined, written, a third of all the coverage we found was bylined or was written by Western sources. So it's bylined Reuters, bylined international publications. And what was really sad was that 81% of the stories that we analyzed over the period of time we did the research were considered to be hard news. And hard news, by definition, is negative news. So these were the stories of the conflicts, of the crises. At the time we did the research, there was NSARS happening in Nigeria. There was, in fact, I think you guys were having your elections in Uganda at that time. So the stories were about, political election violence. They were all negative. And what we found was that there was so little on arts and culture and human interest stories. Something like 4% of all the stories we analyzed were on arts and culture. And when you think about Africa's biggest export, our music, some of our films, we're not even writing about them. And human interest, 7%. When you think of a continent of 1 billion people, we have people, we don't even write about our people because Africa often is told through the issue of, it's told through the lens of issues. The issue of poverty, issue of corruption, the issue of conflict. So if you're a journalist working today, and you're covering your country or the continent, what narrative are you feeding? That's a question we should ask ourselves. And I don't want to say that there's been no progress. We are seeing a lot of progress, but I went onto the BBC website just before I came on here, and I saw there were 3 stories that seemed to feed the narrative. One about rebels who are firing rockets to UN peacekeepers in Sudan. There was the death toll in anti-coup protests. There was Tunisia and the fact that the leader there is increasing his power. It's the usual kind of stories. But what I realize is that we need long-term change, and we do deserve, as Africans, better representation. And there are 3 solutions that I think about. One is that we need new thinking in the newsroom. So if you look at most African newsrooms, the editors are probably a bit older, and they come out of that school of journalism that says, if it bleeds, it leads. So it is negative storytelling that makes the headline. They're not really interested in human interest stories. And as a result, we're actually realizing that, journalists are leaving journalism school without the knowledge of how to write human interest stories. They're having to learn that later on in their careers through initiatives like solutions journalism. And also, globally, newsrooms need to have better representation in their newsroom. So if you think about CNN or you think about, BBC, they call themselves global media. They cover the world. But if you look into who's running the newsroom, you're not going to find much representation. You won't find many Africans in positions of power who are determining what actually gets broadcast or what gets put out. So that's one important change. The second thing that I think we need to do is we as Africans need to tell our stories better. So for example, when you're doing your next story on your community or your country, who is the hero of that story? Is it the poverty? Or is it the people in the story? We need to use better language. Things like putting starvation, slum versus informal settlement. There's a lot of language we use that's globally accepted. And that's how the Western world tends to write about Africa. We need to come up with our own words that don't imply that we're somehow less than or we're worse off than countries because they're in the global north. When we do write about the negative stories or the conflicts, we need to put more context into them. If you're writing a story about corruption, you need to talk about the corruption agency that's been set up that's addressing and has brought down other corruption. We need to kind of give context to the stories that we also have to remember that Africa is not a country, because too often you find 2 or 3 countries, something is happening in 2 or 3 countries, and journalists extrapolate that and say it's a trend in Africa. For example, earlier on this year, there was lots of stories in international media about the 6 coups that happened in 5 countries across 18 months in West Africa. The headlines were that, there's so many coups happening in Africa, but in fact, actually, it was happening in 5 countries, which meant that it wasn't happening. There were no coups in 40 countries, or more than 40 countries in Africa. And if you think about it, we really need to learn to focus on facts, not on the probability. Sorry, I'm going to just cough. Sorry, excuse me. And we need to kind of prioritize stories that focus on facts, not probability. You remember when the COVID reporting started, how people said that there would be bodies in the streets in Africa, based not on facts, but based on perception of a broken health system in Africa. And we need to look at new forms of journalism, which is why I'm so excited by what MCI is doing in this solutions journalism. The fact that we're looking at how journalism can actually play a more positive role in bringing different stories. And then we need to make sure we're bringing the voices of ordinary people into the stories. And the third thing I think we can do is we need to tell new stories. Sorry, I'm going to cough again. Sorry. Really sorry. Jesus. I'm nearly done. So the third thing we need to do is we need to tell new stories. Not just telling existing stories about conflicts in Africa, but we need to find those new stories. New stories that talk about the human interest, the people who are doing amazing things, some of the initiatives that are making Africa go forward, making Uganda go forward. And in fact, if media and journalists don't start changing and looking for new stories, there's a trend happening, news avoidance. People are tired of sad and bad news. They're turning off these traditional media platforms in their droves. They're turning on to social media. One of the people we fund is a young lady called Marie Mbulu. She runs something on TikTok called Habari and Jerry, which is good news on Africa. She's not a journalist, but she said she was tired of all the bad news on Africa. She set up her own channel. She has nearly 500,000 followers, if not more. Some of her posts get more than 4 million views. She's more powerful than the monitor in terms of her reach. She's more powerful than a lot of media organizations, but yet we ignore her. But she has found her solution to the story. She's become a journalist. And there are more people like that who are doing their own things, who are finding these new stories. So if media wants to survive, if media wants to be relevant, you need to write the stories that people want to read. So I'm going to conclude now. As media, we have a responsibility to reflect what is actually going on in our countries. So next time you write a story, ask yourself, what narrative is it feeding? Who is the hero of your story? And on that, I'm going to leave that and hand back to Abbas and say thank you so much for the opportunity. Congratulations again and good luck.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much.
A huge round.
Hello.
African No Filter. This, I have a very important quote that I actually read from the website. So it said something like this, yeah? If lions do not learn to tell their own story, hunters will continue to tell those stories for them. Yeah? So we are super excited that here in Uganda, we have our own lions that are ready to tell these stories in a powerful way. Yeah? Another round of applause. Yes. Allow me introduce Kanan Arinda, yet again, anchor and journalist, to sort of lead us into the next session, the panel session. Ladies and gentlemen, Kanan Arinda.
All right, thank you so much. As Kanan Arinda comes to the stage, I would love to thank all of you and those people who are streaming live on our social media platforms. Thank you so much. This is the official launch of Solutions Now Africa. The hashtag, guys, that you should use on Twitter is #SNA launch, as we make sure that people know about what is happening here at the MCI Hub.
Of course, and yes. It is SNAL, all capital letters, and then I think it's SNA launch.
Then launch is small letters,
yes.
lowercase. Then
yes.
SNA is uppercase.
And of course, the other one is Africa Fast. So #Africa Fast, yeah? At Solutions Now Africa. Those will be the hashtags for the day.
Yes.
Thank you.
And by the way, Tracy, before you go,
yes.
because I'm seeing they're still setting up.
You know, I fear these things.
Yeah, Moki was talking about something that is very pertinent, that I really wanted to maybe throw more light on. The perception, how do we perceive Africa we as the Africans, we as the journalists that tell these stories, how do we perceive it? Because how we perceive it will actually bring out what we write about Africa. It's high time that all of us retract from, looking at the problems. I know the problems are more sensationalized, and Ugandans like things that are sensationalized. Yeah, more followers. Noisemaker, people
If
like to have
bleeds,
following.
it
But
leads.
at what cost?
Yes.
Don't you think we need to tell stories that are going to show our children, our great-grandchildren, that actually Africa is a land that they should be proud about? So each and every journalist who is watching us right now, the mantle is on you.
What narrative
Yes.
are you? Is your
Are you
story
spreading?
leaving behind?
For me, Edgar, I have, wanted and I'm championing spreading of facts, because I believe facts will make Africa a better place. That means I'm trying to bring out solutions in my own way. What about you? That is the question that goes back to you. Ladies and gentlemen, a round of applause for Mr. Noisemaker himself, Kanan Arinda. How do you feel?
Thank you.
How do you really feel?
Well, I tell you, I think you deserve the name Noisemaker more than I do.
Thank you so much. Take it away, Kanan Arinda.
Thank you so much. Let's give them a round of applause. How often do we clap for MCs at events? Very rarely.
Less
yeah?
often.
Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, we are going on with our program today, and we're going to be having our panel discussion. Now, just to remind you, we are talking about narratives and narrative change. Because for so long, as a continent, we have allowed people to frame who we are. And most of us have fallen victim to that framing. We've perpetuated some of those framings and gone on. And so here today to discuss this very, very important aspect are some of the most phenomenal journalists, change makers in society, and people that are doing everything they can to combat narratives that are negative about our continent. Our very first person that we'll be with on our panel is none other than Ruona Meyer. She's a freelance journalist, researcher, and media trainer with 19 years of experience across Africa, the UK, the Netherlands, and Germany. She specializes in solutions journalism trainings. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Ruona. And here with us today is Carol Atangaza. She is passionate about human interest stories and adding value to people's lives by providing information, knowledge, and solutions with more than 20 years in newsroom experience as a writer and manager. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Carol. Yes. Carol, there's a microphone for you, which will be brought. Yes. Next, we have Natasha Kimani. Natasha is the research and programs lead for Africa No Filter and is passionate about the amplification of African voices and strongly believes that shifting harmful narratives will lead to increased positive attitudes, perceptions, and beliefs about endless possibilities and opportunities within the continent. Ladies and gentlemen, Natasha. I think he can get arrested for impersonation, huh? Natasha squared. All right. Next we have Dina. Dina Abogazala. I really hope I'm pronouncing that right. She is a media entrepreneur who spent the last 14 years working for the BBC and is now the founder of EGOB, which helps young journalists from across the Middle East and Africa publish solutions journalism stories in regional and international media outlets. Ladies and gentlemen, Dina. And finally, most of you don't know him, but he is Mpindi Abbas, the CEO and co-founder of the Media Challenge Initiative, a youth-driven non-profit building the next generation of journalists in Uganda. I was kidding, everyone knows who you are. You're very welcome. Well, everyone that is with us here today physically and those that are joining us online, I just want to do a quick check-in. How are we all doing? I'll start with you, Abbas. How are you feeling?
Fantastic.
You're feeling fantastic.
Fantastic. Africanacity.
Africanacity, oh yeah.
Yes.
All right, well, you're wearing a bright yellow. Our future is bright, or our bright is future?
The bright is the future, I guess. The future is bright. And
Yeah.
don't get political on me.
Oh, no.
We should all love yellow.
Absolutely. If it were political, you and the MC would have fought already because she's in red. All right, well, let's check in. How are you feeling today? Are you excited to be here?
I feel honored to be here. Thank you. And hopeful that finally young people are seeing Africa the way I would want them to see it. This is a very amazing thing you're doing here.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that you're doing something about it.
Yeah.
And I pledge my assistance whenever I need it, because I have plenty of I have plenty of wisdom to share, having been in this field for this long, and this being my passion. There are some things you can't do because you've been trained. There's things that just come, they are birthed out of you because of your passion. And I think that's what this gentleman here did. So yes, I'm glad to be here, and I'm excited to see what's going to happen.
Absolutely. Well, we'll be getting more into that conversation a bit on. Let's check in with our panelists online. I will start with Riona. How are you doing? Are you with us? Arrange some to be flown here at PAR. Well, and Dina, how are you doing? How are you feeling today?
Quite jealous of you guys getting to attend this in person. And on your first anniversary, I expect a flight ticket to be sent to me.
Well, as solution. Profoundly honored and exceedingly humbled to have you here today. Let's just get straight into it. And I think let me start with you, Riona. You were a mainstream journalist for a very long time, and you made the move to do SOJO, or solutions journalism. And I just want to start by breaking it down for the people that might be around today. What do you refer to as narrative change or narratives as an individual?
So for me, narratives are another look and a deeper look at whatever the trend is wherever you are. So for example, this is a way of looking beyond blanket reporting. If people report only on women where you are, changing the narrative means you go the other way and report on men or people who So I think part of changing the narrative is being aware of the tools to tell that narrative, as I've pointed to. And when you see what the main narrative is in a place, for me, a narrative is the other side, the other way, the other things that are missing. I don't think the narrative of Africa is applied equally. So there are some places where there's a lot of women reporting actually, and some places they are not. Which is why with solutions journalism, which we'll talk more of, you are able to have this laser focus that really suits the communities, that really suits the countries, that really takes into context what changing the narrative is. So in a nutshell, changing the narrative is looking the other way.
Oh, wow. Okay. What a powerful way to end the sentence. So, looking the other way, I just want to find out also, Carol, what for you, when you think of narratives, we're discussing narratives, what comes to your mind? And maybe what might be some of the narratives, the negative narratives that you might have heard or realized that we currently have about the continent?
Narratives, I think, are the stories we tell ourselves
Mm-hmm.
and eventually get to tell other people. That's what narratives, that's how I describe narratives.
Mm-hmm.
While here I heard people talking about journalism. And I think it's there is a misconception that human interest stories are discouraged in newsrooms. That is not true. And as a journalist, as an editor who sits in a newsroom, we actually encourage those stories. So yes, that is one of the misconceptions that I've heard, like today when I'm seated here. So yeah, have I answered your question?
Well, yeah, one of them. Actually, let me get a bit into that. So,
Yes.
in the newsroom, I come from a university which I will not mention for obvious reasons. And when they're teaching us journalism, they say, you know, we are looking for the most bizarre stories and the bad news. Like, no one wants to hear about how I woke up in the morning, went to work, had a beautiful day, and came back home. That's not a story. But if I get an accident somewhere in the middle there, then that becomes a story. So you're saying that one of the misconceptions is that people think that human interest stories are not accepted. But is it true that it might be a bit more difficult to have such a story headline as opposed to how many people have caught COVID or how many people have died?
Absolutely, absolutely. It all depends on the market we have. People have been trained to look out for bad news. But also, I think you as journalists who are being trained, it's up to you to interpret these things properly. If someone tells you, do not give an obvious story, it doesn't have to be banal, it doesn't have to be boring. You can tell the story of your day in a way that's interesting and catchy. Yes, that will be acceptable. What they do not want are boring, banal stories. So they do not have to tell you to kill someone you know, for your story to be published. No. There are many stories around. There are very many good stories around. Uplifting stories. Those are stories that we actually look for. But because most journalists have been told to look for those stories, so they go for the low-hanging fruit. The low-hanging fruit are those negative stories. But a good journalist can go out there and look for a positive, uplifting story, and I promise it will get published, and it will get read.
Okay, well, that's good news for us at Solutions Now, because we want to do some more of those stories that are positive, and we want to go to a global level where we tell African stories positively and hopefully headline in major publishers. Abbas, I noticed you were nodding your head in agreement at some point, especially when Carol was talking about the positivity of the story and maybe other people looking for low-hanging fruits. And for many of us in the building today, we know that you have been one of the champions here for, like, look for the positive. Don't necessarily show houseflies on a child. So for you as a boss, when you're thinking about stories, what are some of the key aspects that you look out for to say this is a solution story that is good enough vis-a-vis PR-looking stories?
Okay, so maybe just to set the record straight.
Mm-hmm.
So solutions journalism is really evidence-based storytelling or journalism focusing on critical responses to the problems or social problems that you have. So it can be a human interest story. Mm-hmm. It can be a hard news story. Mm-hmm. So that's maybe I was agreeing, but also I wanted to make sure that it's very clear that that's what solutions journalism is all about. Now, it's also not positive. It looks like a positive story, but it's not entirely about like positive storytelling. Because when we talk about positive stories, it could be these, what we call fluffy stories where you find someone...
Feel-good stories.
Yeah,
sorry?
Feel-good stories.
Yeah, exactly. Feel-good stories. Oh, look at this guy who has helped maybe, helped his disabled pig get a wheelchair, right? Or look at this guy who has helped their cat get an operation. Like, it's good, it feels good, but that's not solutions. That's not like a systemic response to a problem that you're covering. So I'll go into detail a little bit about it. So solutions journalism, we're talking about the problem that we are facing in a community. So in this case, let's talk about teenage pregnancy, which is one of those things that I like to use. 2, who are the people in our communities that are doing crazy, amazing work to stop that? We are not going to go to profile them or their organization. We're going to go and ask, what are you exactly doing to stop teenage pregnancy? So they will tell us that we have a parenting model that helps us to talk to the teenage girls before, and then they have a support system. Our work as journalists is to document that model. Mm-hmm. How does the parenting model work to make sure that, girls don't get pregnant before they finish school? So you show us step by step how that works. If I'm from another community and I see this story and I can say, oh, we also have parenting groups, we could adopt that model and use it. Now that is solutions journalism.
Okay.
It can be about really like for each and every problem that you see in the world, there are hundreds and hundreds of responses towards that. It can be government, right? If you talk to Emmanuel here, he will tell you how many systems or approaches they are putting in place to make sure that you have healthcare.
Yeah.
But we don't cover them because we're thinking that's public relations, right? But you don't have to profile it as like Ministry of Health. What you could do is really document that system. If it's helping to stop the stealing of drugs and it has evidence that it works, document it because other clinics can then adopt it
from there
and replicate it.
Well, I'm going to get back to you, but I just want to let the people that are with us, both online and here physically, know that we will open the floor up so that you can send your questions in. Please feel free to fire all those hard-hitting questions that you might have, and I will give you the chance. And that also applies to those that will be joining us on Zoom. Dina, are you still with us? Okay. Okay, I'm glad. Dina, I want to talk money with you. You are a media entrepreneur. Now, when a lot of people think about entrepreneurship, we think about money making, right? But then also a lot of people, when we think about solutions journalism, we're thinking about like non-profit, help the community kind of thing. But Dina, you found a way to merge those two, and I want us to have that conversation. How do we correlate money-making journalism that can pay journalists, but also being able to do sojo or to do solutions journalism stories? Okay.
From an entrepreneurial lens, I'll try to give you an answer from that lens. If you speak to anyone in the entrepreneurship field, they will tell you before you start a business, okay, you have to find the gap in the market. Okay, and then you follow the gap. You find a problem and you offer a solution, but you have to find your niche, the gap, the area, the space no one is operating in. And this is exactly how you mix between solution journalism and money. Because guess what? That's the gap in the market. And we've all been speaking, I've heard the speakers who've been speaking about how, how Africa is portrayed in a certain way, and that's because this is mainly how the international media covers Africa. This means there is a gap. There is a gap in stories that tells other stories about Africa. What's being mostly portrayed is one part of the story. We're not saying that this does not happen. We're not saying that all of a sudden all the problems have been solved, and there is no poverty, no health problems, no corruption. No, there are these problems. They are real. But guess what? There are people working on solving these problems, and this is the angle that's missing. So this is how you can use, you mix between social journalism and money making as a pivot. Is that we found through a gap, what we did is that we found the gap in the market, and because our mission to empower local journalists to get published in international media. So guess what? If you want to pitch a story to the BBC or the Guardian or and it's the same thing, let's say I'll use my country, I'm from Egypt. If I say the same thing about human rights violations, whatever, terrorism, what have you. Well, there are many, these stories are already out there. They're on Reuters, on AP, on AFP. Why would I commission a new voice to tell me the same story that I'm already aware of? So when a journalist comes with a new story, no one is covering this completely new, that increases his or her chances of getting commissioned. And this is what we're doing. So we're showing also our journalists how you can find the story that no one else is telling, and this will give you an edge from your competition. Because let's be frank, the media scene is a very listening scene. There are many, many, many players in this scene. So if you really want to stand out, you need to stand out of the crowd. So you need to find your niche, whether it's the format, whether it's the area, the genre you're covering, geographically. You have to find something that that makes you different from the rest. So that's how you combine social journalism and money from an entrepreneurial point of view. Yeah. But also, and I'm sure Roman could also speak about that. I mean, the Solution Journalism Network, which is a non-profit in the US, has done a lot of research about the links between revenue and solution journalism, and there is, I won't say conclusive evidence, but I'll say growing evidence, okay? Yeah. Pointers, indicators that there is appetite. So even if you're a nonprofit and you want to you apply for a grant, just having the solution journalism element there also helps. Yeah. So yes.
All right, Dina, before I do let you go, Carol, this question will also be directed to you because we're now talking about editorial process. But Dina, when you're receiving stories from all across, because you don't only do Africa, you also do the Middle East, right? And so what is your editorial process for a soldier story that is coming in, beyond it just being about solutions? Are there certain aspects which you specifically look out for and say, I'm taking this, I'm not taking that?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, first of all, we look at pitches. We don't ask the journalists to produce the whole story before it's been commissioned, right? So that we don't waste their time. So when we look at the pitch, we want to see, first, the larger the problem, the more important the story. When I say larger, I mean it affects many people. So if you bring me, many people have these problems that you bring me
All right, thank you, Dina. You've mentioned lazy journalism. That's something that we here at the Hub have been fighting. We make sure that we avoid it as much as possible. Isn't that so, Abbas? We don't have any lazy journalists here, do we? Do we?
It's work in progress.
Okay, well, Carol, now let's talk also local here in Uganda, where the editorial process for Sojo stories. Realistically speaking, so let's like forget we are launching solutions journalism and everything has to be good. Realistically speaking, what is the hope for having a bigger percentage of Sojo stories in the local newsroom as compared to like bad news, the pig died, as opposed to someone found the solution?
After the solution.
Yeah. Yeah, so what, like realistically, taking note of the landscape, what are the chances?
There is a lot of hope. That's what I can tell you. Because I don't think solution journalism, they always say that when you're thinking of an idea, imagine there are several other million people that are thinking of the same thing. Yeah. It is not by accident that this is happening now. It means it's in the conscience of so many other people. So many other journalists are thinking about the same thing. And that means it's being included and considered in the newsrooms. Yeah. Yes. So, yeah, there is hope that will tell more solution stories. Yeah. And we do tell those stories. We, there's a section in the newspaper that I edit called Features. If you look at it, there are magazines. Usually those magazines are centered on solutions. For example, we go out and look. Let's say there is a sickle cell, a family that's being affected by sickle cell. Yeah. So we go and talk to them. What are you doing? How have you survived? What solutions can you give to others? So that story adds value, gives hope to the reader, and it provides solutions. Where can you find help? Which agency can fund you? All those things. So when we are writing a story, when we are producing a feature story, we are looking at all those things. Of what value will it add to the people? Of what relevance is it to the people? Whom are we communicating to? Because you might write a story that's really good, but it affects just a handful of people. So you have to look at limited, exactly. So whom are you writing for?
And are the advertisers willing to pay for space in that kind of section?
Absolutely. They are because people like to associate with something that's attracting other people. So if your section is doing well, there is no reason why an advertiser won't pay for space in your section. It doesn't matter whether it's whether you look at it as a fluffy story, but as long as it has effect, it has reach, people will do what? Advertisers will definitely come on board. Yes.
Well, I'm gonna ask you, Ruona, and then I'll move to your boss, and we'll open the floor up for the people in the audience or the people on Zoom that might have any questions. So please be utilizing right now. If you have any questions for any of our panelists, you can take note of them, and we'll open the floor up for you to have them. Now, Ruona, you are a multi-award-winning journalist, and you've been nominated a couple of times. And that was like for mainstream.
For an Emmy.
For an Emmy, yeah. Part of my bio on my Twitter is I dream of being slapped at the Emmys.
Ruona can do that.
She's living the dream. But of course, I don't think she wants to be slapped. Ruona, do you want to be slapped like I do? Okay. We could have some practices here maybe afterwards. But Ruona, what I would like to know is that transition from mainstream journalism, hardcore journalism, to now Sojo. What was that experience for you? And would you say that you've completely switched to being a Sojo journalist, or are you still on either side?
Mm. Once I was doing an investigation, and there was this pile of poo, and one of the producers wanted to actually put a sound effect of a fly buzzing on the poo, and I got really upset.
Mm.
I got really upset because, I mean, in the course of the buzzing, you focus on the poo. Okay, that's negative, fine.
Yeah.
The poo was there. But why will you now go back in post-production and want to actually put the sound effect of a fly? And I realize now that the way I felt so strongly about it was basically the African in me and the solution journalist in me saying, no, this is not the part of the story you're supposed to focus on, and then go back and tweak it again. And yes, for the record, that was a foreign non-African colleague wanting to do that. I think it all started to make sense to me when I attended a solutions journalism webinar, and since I've started managing the Africa Initiative, I realized that, as Tina has said, there's a way you can say the truth without inventing or actually centering the negativity or the things that bring down a people, that remove their dignity. And I started getting more interested in it. Have I made a switch? I wouldn't say I've made a switch, because I now use solutions journalism principles in every type of reporting or editing I do. So I still coordinate investigations, I still, across the continent, and I still edit people's work. And what I do in them is actually ask them, okay, you've investigated and you found something really nasty. Well done. Is somebody doing something about it? This investigation is about people taking bribes. Good. Who are the civil servants that don't take bribes? Or are we to say everybody in this country takes bribes? Every civil servant takes bribes. And the journalists will say, actually, no, it's not possible that everybody takes bribes. Okay, so the ones who don't take, how do they maneuver? How do they survive? And for example, we've reached now about 940 journalists across the continent in 2 years. Two things I would say: there's a big appetite, not only with the audience, but also with the journalists, for solutions journalism. It is an approach that goes everywhere. So we will be in Liberia in 2 months, training in investigative solutions journalism. I say this because it's not about, this is solutions journalism over here, and this is any other type of journalism. I have taught solutions journalism to fashion journalists, actually. And so in their own session, they are looking at sustainable ways of creating fashion, responses that are actually sustainable, that are not destroying the environment, that are actually giving money in the pockets of women. Solutions journalism is one approach to all types of journalism. It makes you step back and actually think of your bias. And for me, I think the role it has in changing our African reality is that it expands access. So people who are tired of listening to one type of brand or news, solutions journalism is refreshing. Dina has said people want to hear the other side. News editors that commission want to have another angle. Solutions journalism as well it also elevates the chances of revenue. There are a lot of examples that happen on the continent that makes me really excited, even for the Solutions Now Hall. Because I know you guys are really onto something big, and I don't want to steal the magic away. So for me, I haven't really left solutions journalism. It's always been there, and it's an approach I use as a reporter, as an editor, and as a coordinator of investigations.
Wow. Rihanna, before I do move on from you, thank you for making Abbas nod so much. My goodness. He's been nodding from the beginning till the end. I hope you're not getting dizzy. But, Rihanna, I'm going to share very briefly an experience I had. We were talking about what I do with a colleague of mine I was telling them about solutions journalism and how we don't want to tell like bad things only, and in your situation, don't add the sound effect of the fly. And they said, you know, when we're doing stories, because they were also journalists, when we're doing stories, we want someone to do something about that story. When we show this young child that doesn't have school fees, we want someone to come and pay for them. Now, if I do a story here in Africa, and like I'm only showing the good side, I'm at Acacia and everything, who is going to donate money when they're seeing me drinking the same coffee that they're drinking there? So their argument was, yeah, we show these bad things, but like they bring the donations in there. And so I wanted to get your comment on that, and then I'll move on to you also, Abbas, because I know that's something that you're also very passionate about. So Rona, what would you comment about that side of looking at the way journalists tell those stories?
The investigation was that they declared or did not declare certain amounts of things, so we got their asset declaration forms. But we found out they were declaring other things on Facebook, declaring a nice house, declaring cars, and so we got people to file them. We brought all that from the internet and had a file of what the real assets were of each person that under-declared and did not declare. Now, we had the usual thing which you just mentioned, where we said, not declaring this, using this money to do this and that, this is the effect it has on poor people. We had that aspect, but you see where solutions journalism works, is you also have to look at what is the alternative. We then looked at the problems that the asset management authorities were having. And we looked at how other people in the same region have solved those same asset problems within that story. We actually took the asset declaration forms for Liberia to experts to prescribe what can be different. Now, I say all this to say that when that story came out, not only was there the normal outrage and the effect that, oh yes, you've taken money from these poor people. We had that impact. But for me and for the colleagues, even better was that the people who were working in the asset declaration office actually told us they found the fact that we connected with an expert who, this was like a real expert, an academic expert, and they dissected the form and said, if I were this office, this is what I would do. They commended that. They said they would take it on board. The problems they had, we said, okay, they say they can't go far. And it was like, okay, we've shown you how we can track people by sitting in Germany, sitting in Liberia, sitting in Ghana. You can also do that. So for me, if you are looking for effect, it doesn't mean you shouldn't use your usual tactics that suit you. But you have to step back and really ask yourself, because in the end, you are going to contribute to your country's, your continent's narrative. Could there have been solutions? Could there have been lessons that could be learned? And this is the thing Dina and Abbas have pointed to. Solutions journalism has 4 pillars. You talk about a response that's already working, that's already existing, let me put it like that. That response does not have to work, okay? Because there is no perfect solution, which is why the difference between solutions journalism and PR is that you must talk about the limitations, the challenges, the sides that are not too good. And then if you are reporting on something that is bad, when you use the solution lens, you talk about the things that are working too. It's about insights as well. So you have to really say, how does this thing work? And you can't do that with a story that is just about some politician doing something or just about an office that's doing the other thing. So for me, I feel these things one does not have to be left for the other. We definitely need our hard-hitting impact, but at the same time, we can balance it with actually looking at, okay, this is a problem, this is bad. Who in the next country across the border is doing something? Who are the experts that can actually advise us? and therefore advise our audience, and therefore advise even the sources in this story. And as an editor who has taken that type of approach severally, I can tell you it works.
Okay, I really hope that we have more ministers here in Uganda that adopt the Snapchat Live and MTV Cribs so that we can also value the assets. That would be nice. Abbas, I'm going to move on to you, and then after you will get some questions from the audience if there are any.
Can I maybe jump onto the question you asked her? So
Sure thing.
The journalist that says, you know, if we want someone to raise school fees for a certain, you know, poor person, that's great, but that's not systemic change, right? We are not talking about individual help, like, oh, this person is looking for 30 million to go to India for a surgery. It's a great cause. But when we're talking about journalism, we're talking about solutions journalism, we're talking about responses that create systemic change. I'll give you an example. Over there is a guy called Benji. Tap your hand.
Boundless Minds.
Boundless Minds. Now, Benji is not dealing with one person, right? Benji is dealing with a big challenge that the industry is facing. Career guidance, you know, employment and skilling for the future. That's the kind of, you know, response that we need to focus on as solutions journalism. That's why we'll go to Benji not to tell the story of Benji and how amazing he is, which he is, but we'll go to Benji to say, how does this thing work? So that someone in Congo can replicate like the boundless model of skilling for the future. We're talking about systemic change. We're not talking about, you know, this one, and again, like, for me to go back to like how solutions journalism and changing all these negative narratives, which I'm really, really passionate about, is that the frame of a poor person, and what Rona was talking about, is you go to a community and you, because you think if you do that, then someone, maybe a donor in the US or in Germany or anywhere, will say, oh wow, these poor guys. But you're only attracting charity. You're not attracting investment. When people read about, you know, structural and systemic responses to issues like what Benji is doing and the other guys are doing, people are interested in investing and partnering with those issues or those models that are changing those communities, not at an individual level, but at a bigger scale. So that's why we say, is there evidence that this works? And to what extent? So if you go and you find there's only 2 people in the community that say it works, then you don't tell that story. It's not a solution journalism story. It can end up being a feel-good story, which is okay, but at the end of the day, we're looking at bigger systemic issues and what are the responses that we are seeing being implemented in our communities. And so one of the stories that I like, which I hope that we get to see later, is this story that Daniel Ayobare did about, you know, inclusion of people with hearing impairment. So across the board, from how does a deaf person go enjoy prayers, right? Are there churches in this country where they have sign language? So we find out that actually there are churches that are doing that, right? So we find out that there is also a restaurant that is also basically employing the deaf, and they're using sign language. And they're making sure that if you go there, and you will also use sign language, or you learn sign language to order for your food. And then we also realize when it comes to media inclusion, there's a TV, sign language TV that is being started to make sure. So it's across the board, right? So that's how, at least if you're here and at the end of the day, you walk away with this idea of solutions journalism, systemic change. But then to comment on like those negative narratives, if you're a journalist and the attraction is always on getting that mucus and flies and even adding like sound effect to it to get the attention of the
little
masses.
Post-production.
In post-production, it really shows that you don't feel for that person whose story you're telling. Because at the end of the day, that image stays on the internet. At the end of the day, people will talk to the children of those mothers and fathers that you show in that image. And they will make fun of them in school. And that's how you think, as a journalist who is systems thinking, that's how you think about your story and the impact of either B-roll, footage, pictures, text, and in solutions journalism, it's called asset framing, which you show people in inspiration, in hope, and in urgency for their future.
Okay, and you preempted my last question to you before we move on.
Why are you not clapping for that? It's like, that was like a whole lecture.
You want to drop the mic? Oh, I'll be the one to pay those prices later. Okay, so I'm going to ask you this, and then I don't know if are there any questions for our panelists in the audience? There are? Okay. All right, so there are. So, talking about impact, which has been hinted on a lot by everyone that is speaking here, the impact of the SOJO stories, solutions journalism stories. I want to ask you, in terms of is there a scale for impact to know that, okay, this checks off the impact box, therefore I can cover it? If I came up with a potential solution to the pig that is sick, or today, do we have to wait 10 years or 5 years to come and cover the story? When do we jump on, and how do we tick off that box of impact?
So first of all, it can't be one pig. There has to be very many pigs that are, and I can't say the impact. I can't say number. But as a journalist, when you go to a community, before you go to the community, you are looking at a problem. So you are saying kids are dropping out of school before they complete, primary 7. And here is a report, here is the number, right? Traditionally, we would say this percentage of kids in Uganda don't finish school, right? That's the top story you'll find
the headlines.
So as a solution journalist, you say who is doing something about this issue. So you go to you will look at these reports even, sometimes they can show you that in community Z, the data shows that actually they had very low, dropouts, right? And so you ask yourself, why is this number lower than all the other numbers in the other communities, like a positive deviant? So you go investigating what are you guys doing to make sure that you have lower numbers of dropouts? So you find that they are doing some things. Maybe there is an NGO that has some work there that is doing amazing, making sure people stay in school. So another example I'll give you, which is a response, is an organization called Teach for Uganda. And so we're talking to one of the fellows. They have a fellowship program in schools. And there's these two of the fellows in Buyikwe. They went to a school that had sort of I can say 99% kids would not complete school, a term. And when these guys came in, they introduced learning using video. And then they also introduced lunch, because the kids would run out of school because they were hungry.
Actual eating food.
Yes, and the way they did is they started gardens around the school. So they would get vegetables and then they cook food for the kids. And they realized by using video and games that kids were now almost 80% not leaving school. So when you go to them, you ask, what did you guys do? It could be this one school, but it could be, and the impact might be that they have changed from 90% dropout to actually 90% back to school. So you document that and how they've been able to do it. Maybe another school will replicate the gardens around and be able to feed the kids. Maybe they will also introduce a laptop. A teacher who has a laptop could show some videos. And that for me is a response to different challenges at a systemic level.
Okay, we will be moving on to the audience now, but I think Apir Marian happens to work with Meal for Kids, and I think she's listened to that point of introducing gardens in schools. Marian, I don't know if Meal for Kids could think of gardens for our students. But anyways, now we're going to open the floor up for the ladies and gentlemen in the audience, both physically here and on Zoom. Are there any questions? If you do have any questions, you can raise your hand, and then one of my producers will bring a microphone over to you. Oh, the MC is already. Okay.
Good evening. My name is Meme Letitia Lueze. So my question is, solution journalism is evidence-based reporting on issues that concern human interest. In most African countries, politicians still say there is no democracy. How best can we tell a soldier story without bringing the narrative of poor leadership?
All right, Letitia, is that directed to anyone, or any of the members on the panel can answer?
Abbas Mpindi.
Okay.
No political questions, please.
Yes.
Now?
More questions?
Let's have...
I think let's take 3 questions collectively, and then we'll respond to them individually.
Yes, hello. I think my question will go to the lady in the newsroom.
Carol.
Carol. Thank you very much, Carol. Something that was noted by the earlier speaker who talked about entrepreneurship for news stories, right?
Dina.
And then one of the things that I think would be a challenge to solution journalism is the fact that the market could want something that isn't necessarily a solution-based story. So how do you think us as a country, as the media in Uganda, can actually navigate that? You know what? I want to make money out of solution journalism, yes, but then I'm not going to follow the whims of the market, because the market could want, don't want to mention names, but could want slander or scandal happening in the city. So how do we navigate that whole situation? Thank you.
Okay. All right, that's directed to Carol. All right. But Dina, if you could, I'd also love to hear your insight on that after Carol. Yes.
Let me also ask a question.
MC.
Yes. Is it okay?
MC. All right, no, it's okay. It's all right. Yeah.
Okay. We are talking about solutions that are working, but I feel we are oblivious of some of the other aspects of the public, the people themselves. We are focusing more on journalists and how they can shape the story. But I personally believe that people are also shaping how others see us. It's the people who post these things on social media, and sometimes we feel like they feel like they're the ones spreading the wrong narrative about themselves. So my question would go to any of you, probably you, Kanan. How do we inculcate the masses, like how you see people in the West who really would always do their level best to spread something that is good about them, and they hide what is bad? Yeah. So how do you think we can add the people, the normal people, the people who spread these things, who post on social media? Do we need a mindset change? What do you think we could do as us to help the people themselves be, solutions champions at the end of the day?
All right, thank you very much, MC. You've given it to me, but I will share with my fellow Emmy Award nominee. Me in dreams, high in reality. I think she'll be more qualified to respond to that. So I think we'll start with your question, Abbas, and then move on from there.
So, I mean, I don't want us to say that when we talk about solutions journalism, we won't have the traditional journalism. We still need to hold people accountable. So we'll do investigations. We'll do explanatory reporting. That must exist. So we're not trying to say solutions journalism over the other. If there is poor leadership, it must be highlighted, and we must stay objective. Even in solutions journalism, you will do a story about like failed response to a certain, when people say this was going to be like a life-changing solution to this problem, but it didn't work. So in solutions journalism, you can do a failure, sort of like learning from a failure by showing what didn't work. And if they had implemented the A, B, C, and D, it could have worked. So that could be, leadership challenge, right? So you highlight those challenges that exist. And also, when you're doing solution stories, it doesn't mean you're not going to highlight the problem, because it's a response about a social problem. So you will start with the problem, obviously, to show that this problem exists. But there is some very good urgency on the ground and there is something being done. Because for each one problem that you're seeing today, there are like 10,000s of solutions of people working to solve that, and we ignore them. And what I think the biggest problem that we create through the media is not showing the world in its wholeness, but rather just saying these are the, and I think maybe to add on to, so solutions journalism aside, the idea of how do we create frames as a society that change the way people see us is on all of you. So when we travel, for example, we are most likely going to be excited about posting other places, right? So we'll be like in Paris, in New York, so those will be the like first images we, but when you come to the MCI Media Hub, for example, you won't post it. I don't know why, right? You won't be like, why are you not celebrating? You know this thing on Instagram.
Is this
why?
objective or you
It's
want
very
more
objective,
marketing?
actually. It's very objective. Okay. Why don't we celebrate our own? Because people will see like, oh, there's this thing going on and it's great and this is what it does. We don't do that, right? If you go to Moroto or Karamoja or anywhere, you won't tell that story. Yeah. But it's easy for us to tell other stories when we are not here. So the first thing is all of you guys, some of you are leaders, organization leaders, even those who write proposals, that part where you describe the problem statement and you say all the bad things about the country so that the donor can give more money. Please stop that.
Yeah.
Show that there is actually work that you're doing.
Yeah.
Because people should invest in that urgency of like, there already exists something that we are doing about this issue. So it starts with you, Mr. MC. We will check out your social media and see what you're posting there.
Okay, and objectively speaking, I think people really need to know that there is a solution to a big problem. Boring photography, there is a solution called 360 UG that you should check out objectively. You know, Sojo, it has impact. Okay, so let's move on to you, Carol. Carol, you have a question to respond to.
I would like to quote one of my favorite people ever, Steve Jobs. When they were telling him, you're making the iPhone very complicated for the end user. The user needs A, B, C, because they were judging by the other phones that were on the market. He told them, the consumers are stupid. Just give them what you feel is the best, and they'll get it. So that, thank you so much. So for you to gain, you're looking for numbers, you're looking for readership. Just do your best. That's what I can tell you. Do quality work. People would definitely come to read. Whether it's solution journalism or general journalism, just do your best. Yes. Have I answered?
Wow, that's powerful. I also wanted to find out from Dina. Dina is working with both Africa and the Middle East. And from that perspective of consumership, I think she's dealing with, Dina, you're dealing with different kind of audiences. So I also wanted to get your insight on that very question in terms of how do you deal with the consumers of the Sojo kind of journalism?
So my answer is in 2 points. When you say the market, who is your market? Okay, because if you're speaking market as the traditional media outlets that are in Uganda or any country, then, well, the market now is very wide. You don't have to limit yourself to this. Because there are Facebook pages, I mean, if you're so passionate about Sojo, but the existing newsrooms are not, I mean, you have now Solutions Now Africa, but I mean, this is how Abbas started, right, with the Media Challenge initiative. He didn't find people to listen to him or open their doors to him, so he created something where, with the power of the internet, social media and all this, anyone can become a media outlet. So, so this is number one. I think you need to redefine what you mean by the market, because the entire world is your market at the moment. So this is number one. Number two, For any business, the number one person that the business has to think about is the customer. And for media outlets, the customer is the audience, right? Well, there is a lot of research already being done showing how that actually the audience wants solution journalism. I mean, only recently the Reuters Institute for the Study of Journalism just released its annual digital report speaking again about the rising figures in news avoidance, etc., because of the dominantly negative agenda. So you can build a case for your editors. Let's assume you work for a newsroom. There's a lot of studies and data out there. Use them to build the case. Tell them, well, the research tells us this. There's international media, more and more international media are heading in that way because of that. If that, I mean, again, you're the one who knows your country and understand what kind of rhetoric and what kind of arguments will work with your editors. And at the end of the day, if they don't listen, and this is something that you really believe in, go ahead and start your own thing. So this is my answer to this. But if you don't mind, I want to also answer the question about the people.
Yeah.
Because it's, so when we speak about how the people themselves are spreading these, let's say, negative narratives about Africa, through what they're posting on social media, we have to understand something, that once you finish your formal education, so when we were kids, we learned from schools, right? School was the main source of information for us. Once you finish that, media becomes your main source of information, okay? And we, of course, being always exposed to the traditional coverage that we already spoke about, that I don't need to go into, we're fed this, okay? We're fed that this is their image. And that's why I think we have to learn from the growth mindset. I don't know if the audience here is familiar with growth mindset concept. So Professor Dweck is an American psychologist. And in 2006, she wrote this great book called Mindset, okay, based on more than 30 years of research. That she said, where she described, she said that we have two kinds of mindset. There's the fixed mindset and there's the growth mindset. The fixed mindset are those who believe they cannot change their abilities. You know, you cannot change. That is who I am. And this applies to every level, individual, country, whatever, okay? This is how we are in Africa, this is our status, and we're doomed, okay? And there is the growth mindset, where we believe that, no, we can develop, that we can get better if we put more effort. And this is the growth mindset. And this theory, the concepts, have changed education. I can tell you this because as a mother, I can tell you at my kids' schools, they always speak about how we need to adopt the growth mindset and etc. And I think it's about time that we as media, we have to adopt this growth mindset. We can't blame people who are the audience of the media for having such a negative perception of the reality when all what we're feeding them is a fixed mindset, is a message that telling them that's your situation and you're gonna stay like that forever. You're born in Africa, then forever you'll be having poor infrastructure, etc. And as a result, the only solution for many is migration.
Wow.
Okay, for many, the only way out, the only way to improve your status quo is to move out. And then Western media comes and say, oh, these immigrants coming to our countries, and it becomes a vicious circle. Well, you're the ones feeding all this rhetoric. So yes, indeed, it starts with changing the mindset, but you as a journalist have an active role to change the mindset of your own people. And the number one question I get from any new joiner, when new members join IGAB, I will tell you 90% of the time I receive this question. But our countries don't have solutions. We only have problems. This is the number one thing I get. And I tell them, you think so, because you don't see that solutions enough in the media. But believe me, if you went and asked around, like take education, take whatever, pick a topic that you're passionate about, and go and look who is doing something to fix that. You'll find many people. We just don't know about them because they're not covered in the media.
Absolutely. Wow. Thank you, Dina. That's really powerful. We're almost coming to a wrap up of our panel. We'll just go for the last round of questions. But of course, there is also a question for you, my fellow Emmy Award nominee. There is a question for us, which I'll leave you to respond to. Rwanda. Rwanda, you're with us?
Yes, that was my question.
Oh, yes. Our MC had a question for you. Edgar Matthew, you want to repeat it? Very quick.
Okay. There is a question actually on Zoom. Paul Kayonga, before I pose the question, they request that Paul Kayonga also say something. There is a question or a comment that he has live on Zoom. Kayonga okay. Paul, if you can listen to us, may you please pose your question or your message.
Thank you very much, team. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, we can.
And congratulations to the Family of Media Challenge Initiative. My question goes to Mr. Basti Pindi and anyone who may be interested in answering it. There is a fact or a belief that the very many problems that in Africa or that Africa is experiencing are based on the politics and leadership. And me as a political reporter, for some good time, that is where my interest is. And I don't want to look at solutions, journalism or solutions now as an independent kind of bit of journalism, but as something, as a model that can be used in all the bits of journalism, whether in business, whether in climate, whether in politics. But when I understand the model and I listen to how it works, it gives this impression that you give audience to people with solutions, people who have designed models that can provide solutions to the existing problems. And they can systematically present those solutions to us for everyone to understand. I understand as a political reporter that very many people have come up with political models or methods that solve the political questions in Africa. How can newsrooms using this model avoid being used by politicians and any other person to portray certain kind of narratives that provide solutions, but also keeping a blind eye to other issues that are affecting society? How are we avoiding newsrooms to be used to show solutions, yet there are other issues that may be covered within the few things that are being done to provide solutions to these things? I'm asking this question as a political reporter who want to use solutions journalism in my political reports. And I believe this kind of question can be used in business reports and others. Like, people can be used. We know journalism of our nature, the journalism that cannot pay well. How can we avoid people to be used in this kind of model, and how it can be fused in other models so that it does not look as if it's a lone walk to the world of journalism? Thank you very much, and congratulations to the team.
Thank you, Paul. I think, Matthew, it was directed to you, so you can answer that, and then we'll be wrapping up our session.
So I think, Kayonga, thank you, and I hope you're doing well in Bonn. I think the assumption also is that politics is about conflict. I think that probably aligns with what we see on a daily.
Dog-eat-dog world.
Yeah, but I don't think that as a solutions journalist, you look at politics merely as conflict. So there are definitely political models that have maybe been implemented here or in other countries that we could learn from. So, for example, if we have one of the challenges that we're dealing with is the succession plan, right? And everyone talks about who is next, who is next, who is next. I think the critical solutions journalists could do is look at countries, either on the continent or out of the continent or in the other places, and say, where has there been, you know, succession, like successful succession plan, where people have moved from one leader to another in peace? What did those countries do? Can you document for us that, Kayonga, and show us, like, this is what has been done in other countries, could be replicated in Uganda or in other countries that are also dealing with the same. So I also know that you work on a lot of corruption-related stories in political spaces. So the same thing you ask yourself, there is a problem, right? There is a corruption problem. Who is doing something about it, and how can that be, how is that being solved? When it comes to the question of being used, as a journalist, you really have to have your antennas up and know if someone is contacting you to say, oh, I have this solution. Obviously, you need to ask yourself, what is the motive of the person just coming to you? Because when we are doing solutions journalism, we are not expecting people to come to you and say, oh, I have this solution, right? We are talking about a journalist taking initiative to find solutions that are being implemented to deal with a certain problem. So even when you get a tip from someone else who says, hey, by the way, this is the challenge that exists, but there is this model that is being implemented, you don't just go on and cover it the way you've been told. You need to investigate further and see, is it really legit, as we say here? Does it really work? Is there evidence on the ground that is being implemented, that it's working? Who is behind it? What's their story? Who are they? What's the intention of that program? There's a whole lot of deep, rigorous work that is involved. So it's not like, oh, let's just document. There's work that is going to be involved in fact-checking, right? Fact-checking the motive of anyone who is calling you to use you, as Paul is saying. And you should be able to tell that this story, I am being used, and don't do it, right? So that's the only thing that I can tell. But solutions journalism can be applied in all genres, be it sports, entertainment. So for example, the way we cover entertainment stories, right? There's a lot of scandals, music, you know, some pieces here, someone has released a song, but we're not looking at like issues like copyright issues around the entertainment industry. That's a systemic issue. So the question is there a place where we can see a model and it could be replicated? And again, it may not exactly work here, but it could have some components that could be picked from there and applied. At the end of the day, there is no perfect fit from one place to another, but you could find certain components of that solution that could be applied, in another community.
All right, thank you. Well, when you're in an event and you keep seeing the MC coming and whispering in someone's ear, it's one of two things. Either the suit you borrowed from them is being burnt by the sun and they're telling you to go into the shed, or time is fast running out. In this case, it's the latter. So we will be wrapping up. Abbas, since you're the last speaker, I'll give you a chance to wrap up in 1 minute. Then we'll move on to you, Rayona. You'll make your closing remarks. Then we'll move to you, Dina, and we'll end with you, Carl.
So for me, it's been the work that we've been doing here at MCI is to build the next generation of journalists who will understand that for whatever story they are doing, which could be investigative or explanatory or anything, they also have an opportunity to think about like documenting solutions. And I'm very, very happy that we have launched Solutions Now Africa as a platform. Please, hey, have you followed us, by the way? Like go on Twitter, follow Solutions Now Africa on Facebook and Instagram, so that you can see the stories. There's also a website, so that you can see the different stories that are there. And then two, to my, this idea of like Africa First journalism. And a lot of people have been, debating with me around like, I don't care, like we don't have to debate about my theories.
Have yours and I'll have mine.
Like, have yours, I have mine. Like, let's push, let's just, Africa first journalism. Other countries put their countries first, right? Like, also, put it out there and say, and by that, I don't mean we should hide the things that are going wrong, right? I mean, let us look for frames and narratives that actually build us. Let us look for things that have been hidden for a long time and show that potential. Look at some of the reports like Africa No Filter has, and look at like the frames that they will tell you have been hidden. And look at the lies that exist about your country, your continent, and fact check them, right?
Don't show the poo, show the healthy cow that left it behind.
Thank you very much. I mean, that also can be debated. But at the end of the day,
I'm on your side.
At the end of the day, really, this is your country, right? And we can, as much as create frames that show that it's going down, as well as show that there is urgency and work that is being done to make sure that we are solving certain challenges of our times. So,
all right. Thank you. Thank you. Rihanna, we're going to move on to you. Your closing remarks.
Paul, from one journalist to another, I think a few tips I can give you are that you should look at politics beyond the federal political systems. There's a lot of local, subnational responses happening to politics. Taking a solutions-based approach, it can be that a political system in one village run by a set of chiefs will actually benefit the state government. So for me, look at processes around politics. Elections, women often suffer and they can't really be part of the process because meetings are held at night. Is there one village that is actually helping to correct this system? So don't think too big, because that's where you can actually be used. And a quick way to have a report that doesn't appear even like anyone used you is when you have one response, add another place. If you are in a region, go somewhere else as well. Once you have a report that talks about two places, one person cannot accuse you that you were paid by one person. What I generally do in politics is if somebody from one party approaches me, I will tell them immediately, I'm also going to talk to the opposition, because that's what's going to happen. So try to do that. And then I really want to talk about getting people into Sojo. The people who share a lot of negative news are actually your partners in the news process. So some tips that have worked with our newsrooms is telling them how you are reporting behind the scenes. So it's not every time that you just give people a report and say, that's it. IGAP does a wonderful job. They actually go and interview and share these colorful graphics of the journalists that wrote the story, so try and engage with them so that they can see they are human beings actually writing this story. Adapt to formats where people are. So if you write a story and it's published on your website, on your newspaper, the people who share these things, where do they share it? They share it on WhatsApp. They share it on Twitter. They share it on TikTok. So it's better you have a format that they too can share there. So as they are sharing rubbish, they are also sharing your refreshing news. And then appoint soldiers. I use this, I swear by it. So I will always, if we're releasing a story, we always appoint ourselves. You go about fishing for all these accounts where they are talking rubbish and you share it under the same thread. You don't have to insult anybody. But you know that the thread is going viral. You just go there and put your good news there, put your balanced news there. People will see it too as well. But you have to be active. You have to be as active as your audience, and you have to learn from them. And that being said, I've had a great time listening to everyone. I'm really excited. I can say that all of us at the Solutions Journalism Network are excited by Solutions Now Hub. We are here to help you in any way. We're always an email away. Abbas knows how to get each and every one of us, even the CEO. Dina is always here to help with cross-publishing and things, but of course she can tell you that about the wonderful work they do. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. Dina, your closing remarks.
So
today is the launch of the Solutions Now Africa. So that's my closing remark. You're celebrating a great day today. You have a great resource, Solutions Now Africa. So use it for all the journalists. I don't know, Abbas, if you're accepting freelancers, but anyway, just to have this resource to either to learn from, share their stories. If you're concerned that people in Uganda are only sharing negative stories, share some of their stories, okay? So start by taking action, remind yourself before complaining, what am I doing personally to fix this? Because we all, as human beings, we have a tendency to complain, and things are tough, but you have a living example in front of you. Abbas Mpendi from your own country, who found a challenge and turned it into an opportunity. So he is, the Media Challenge Initiative is a solution in itself, right? This is a case for solution journalism. Yeah. So learn from him at the personal level. So whenever you find something, you know, it's blocking your road or, you know, stopping you from achieving your dream, think, no, I can still do it. This is the good thing about the age we live in, this is true. Technology has facilitated a lot of things. I wouldn't have been able to start a company if it weren't for technology. We have journalists across 25 countries. I don't have physical branches in 25 countries, but it's possible because I don't need to have actual offices in 25 countries. I can just connect with them all over email. So this is the point. Well done, congratulations on Solutions Now Africa. That's great, and I personally would be following and sharing Abbas. And yes, please give a huge clap and support Solutions Now Africa and learn from them and share their stories. And let's all do this and let's start changing the narrative now.
Oh, thank you. And finally, Carol.
First of all, I'm honored for this invitation. Secondly, I'm awed by this whole idea. Thirdly, I don't think you could have chosen a better time or a better place than this. Look at what's going around us. I don't think you'll ever run out of content. So I can tell you there is a lot. Yeah. There are a lot of people doing amazing things out there because of the challenges we have. So I'm sure you're going to do well, and I wish you all the best. And thank you for inviting me again.
Well, thank you very much. And for each of the panelists that have been with me here today, both physically and online, once again, I am profoundly honored and exceedingly humbled to have gotten the chance to be with you here today. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give one last round of applause for our panelists. Yes. And let me be out of here before the MC comes for one more whisper.
Thank you so much, Kanan.
I thought you liked whispers. No whispers for you, Kanan?
It's warm.
I have
the
just one more.
Put me on,
just one more.
Yes.
On the microphone or off the microphone?
Is it related to
Ladies and gentlemen, a round of applause for Kanan Arinda.
Kanan Arinda, man. Thank you so much, Kanan. It's an honor to have you and the panel talking to us, telling us about solutions. I hope you are learning something. You know, they talked about replicating, so they have talked about the solutions. They can talk about solutions till tomorrow, but the replicating is on your part. How do you involve solutions in your day-to-day activities? Think about that. You as a person, you as a journalist, you as an artist, anything you do. How do you design your craft to help amplify solutions that are working all over Africa?
And speaking of solutions, there are a couple of people that we really owe a round of applause or our sincere appreciation. And those are the people that actually went ahead to share with us their solutions as part of the first coverage of these solutions. Ladies and gentlemen, in our midst, we have members from the Ugandan network of young people living with HIV and AIDS. Mr. Isaac. Hey, please stand up for a round of applause.
You can just stand up.
Yes. Now, they have made sure there is no stigmatization, even with beauty. So I'm sure you've heard of the beauty pageant, of people positively living. He is the gentleman behind that. And of course, we also have AgriShare in the building.
Yeah,
These
AgriShare.
guys are represented by Mr. Paul Zake. Please stand for a round of applause.
Mr. Paul Zake?
Yes.
He is in the back. I don't know why he's hiding. Mr. Paul Zake, thank you so much for whatever you're doing.
Absolutely, because if you want to do some farming, you can do it right here, seated on your mobile phone. Just a couple of resources we both have, but we don't know, we could share. So AgriShare makes sure you do farming in the trendiest of ways, yeah?
Yes.
We also have Maweje Dima of Maweje Creations. Where
Maweje Creations,
yes,
thank you.
Yes. Now, they've turned banana fibers into fashion. So look for him. I'm sure you get some incredible fashion from Maweje Creations, yeah? We also have appreciation for Mr. Emmanuel Aineviona.
He's in the building.
Yes, the Public Relations Officer at Ministry of Health. Thank you so much for being a government, ministry that is okay with giving us data as journalists when we're looking for it and not hiding it.
And by the way, Mr. Aineviona is deeply a humble man. Every time you call him, even at dawn at 7, he will pick up and say, yes, I'm in traffic, but I'll come. Thank you so much for always being there, Mr. Aineviona.
Thank you so much. We also, last but not least, have Mercy Ahukana, Health Access Connect. Yes, thank you so much. We do appreciate you. And of course, they are the guys that are making sure communities in Kalangala have access to health facilities. Thank you so much for sharing with us. Your solutions have made sure we have a story to tell. And of course, we will really appeal to you if you have solutions in your communities that make sure you share with us, yeah?
And Tracy, there are a couple of members here that I would like to recognize. Mr. Anthony Kujawa, who is the spokesperson of the U.S. Embassy. Thank you so much for coming. I can see Miss Sandra Twinobrio, NTV News anchor. Thank you so much for coming through. And everybody is important, by the way. So,
by the way, speaking of important,
and thank you so much, all of you, for coming.
Yes, we have another team from Cavendish University.
Yes.
Mr. Collins Kayongo, Mr. Herbert Mudora, all lecturers of Cavendish University in our midst.
Yes, thank you so much. And of course, we would love to thank our partners. We cannot do this without our loving partners. There is Konrad Adenauer Stiftung. There is the DW Academy, Dutch Welle Academy. A round of applause, guys. We also have Africa No Filter. And of course, we have the Media Challenge Initiative. They are the proud sponsors and vision bearers of Solutions Now Africa. Thank you so, so much.
Thank you. And if you're here, please do make sure to follow us on our different social media platforms. MCI Radio, one that I represent, but also Solutions Now Africa. Go there right now, retweet, tweet, share, like, and of course, we also have a website. Solutions Now Africa.
There is also Debunk Media Initiative, where I come from. Their fact checkers doing a great job. I'd like to recognize all of you. Thank you. And follow us, guys. Follow us at the Debunk Show. We give you factual information, no fake news.
Please do follow Media Challenge Initiative. Go ahead and follow.
There is a study of semiotics, which means the study of signs and symbols. So when I look at some people's eyes, people are like, when are we eating? Ladies and gentlemen, that is going to come.
But before we eat, it's time for spoken word by none other than Mr. Ishak Nsubuga.
You guys, Ishak won't come if we don't give him a proper introduction. Ishak. Ishak Nsubuga. Okay. So, Ishak right here is a journalist. He is a radio host at MCI Radio. He is a poet. He says he's an award-winning poet. I think he won the awards in high school, So we don't have evidence. Nobody can back up his award-winning, facts. And he is also a very good human being. He's a model, and he's a self-proclaimed fashionista.
No, he is
self-proclaimed. Nobody has really said that he is the best, but of course,
Oh, you forgot he's a great voiceover artist.
Oh, yes, great voiceover artist. Ladies and gentlemen, presenting Ishak Nsubuga, aka the Big Boy.
Wow. Wow, thank you so much, the MCs and everybody. For days, I have been thinking about Africa, narratives, solutions, asking myself this question: how best can I write a poem about changing the African narratives of storytelling? How best? See, my name is Ishak Nsubuga, and I do spoken word. Yes, I don't consider myself a poet though, but more of a storyteller. My grandma raised me in a small town within Kampala from an early age. She told me so many stories about my family, the neighborhood, my country, and Africa. For most of my childhood, I was inspired by the Western culture, from the way I dressed, the way I talked and expressed myself, even the plans I had for my life ahead. I mean, what would you expect from a child that grew up watching Disney, Nickelodeon, and reading books with stories that had white cartoon characters? I was only African on the outside and something else on the inside. I wondered and searched for myself in the places where I was least represented until I came back home. Growing up, I have learned about how special we are as Africa. See, they talk about the nature, the forests, mountains, rivers, and beautiful landscape. And we're a lot more than that. We are a lot more than that, right? Yes. We have a lot more to offer. What if they talked about how warm and cordial we are, how welcoming and harmonious we are, always gladly opening doors with open arms for everyone to come in and feel at home? But it's truly sad that the beauty of Africa has been shredded by the single story narratives that the Western media has told the world. Somebody tell the Western world that we are not a defeated species. Africa is not depressed. Africa is not poverty-stricken. Somebody tell the world that we are not that sad tale that they have read about. Tell them. How best can I write a poem about challenging the African narratives of storytelling? Now, we have challenges just like any other. And that shouldn't make us weep or lay low. It shouldn't silence us. We should tell our stories about an Africa of possibilities, of dreams, of hope. We are the hope. And let the negative press we've received over the years not get to us. This negative energy must not befall us. We have got to spread our wings like butterflies and fly high and above. Yes. Now, what if we showed them that we as Africa are unafraid? Unafraid of all that has been said to misrepresent us. Because we represent us. A strong continent that's undivided by the differences in color, religion, or culture, or any other thing. What if Africa refused to be abused? What if the so-called dark continent spread more of the light, the life that they cannot escape from? It's been long enough. It's been long enough. We have been called all sorts of negative things: uncivilized, uncultured, unrefined, unpolished, uncultivated. But what if we show them all that it doesn't and has never defined us? What if we took the gift and knowledge from our very own, for our very own innovations, to create a future of promise, of endless opportunities for our people? What if we cried less and tried more, harder, tougher, even more solid, together, to reclaim our name? To reclaim our sovereignty. See, how best can I write a poem about changing the African narratives of storytelling? How best can I write a poem about challenging the African narratives of storytelling? We can only create the change by accepting and taking on the challenge. They have told their own versions of our stories to the world. The picture of Africa, or the so-called picture of Africa: a pale, crying, malnourished child wearing torn clothes, hungry, in tears, dirty, filthy, seeking help and refuge. The world seems to think we are nothing but beggars in need of donations. They think we live in a jungle. We struggle with all these narratives every single day. Yet, as a continent, we are eminent. We are rising strong. We are growing firm, following a beautiful road. How best can I write a poem about changing the African narratives of storytelling? How best can I write a poem about changing and challenging the African narratives of storytelling? See, what if we are the solution? What if Africa is the remedy to this dilemma? What do I mean? The thing is, we need to stop hiding and show up aggressively with impact. Let's act up and display our creativity in all possible ways. Let's show the world what we are made of. Let's show them. Let's show them. Thank you.
Big boy Shaq, thank you so much. What if I could also give you a poem like Ishak Nsubuga? What if each and every one of you was a solutions champion? What if the only challenge is I am not a poet? Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for Ishak! Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Thank you so much. You know, Ishak is one of those journalists that cannot present without a podium. The CEO can speak without a podium. Ishak cannot present without a podium. That is the brand. Big boy Ishak. Another round of applause for that man. He is a very talented, he says multi-talented human being. Thank you so much. Now, we are coming towards the end of our day today, and I would love to thank all of you for coming through. Thank you. And I've been told by Mr. Silas Mwonge that we are trending on Twitter, #SNA, that is uppercase, then launch lowercase. You can keep retweeting and tweeting about the event and make us trend, because if solutions trend, that means the world is becoming a better place. Now, we are having a video of the Solutions Now journalists. These young people have been working for close to 9 months, and we want to pick some of their experiences. How do they feel? How has it been doing? How has it been going? And maybe you just get a sneak peek of Solutions Now. Production, let's go for the video.
The last 6 months have been very developmental for me, because tracking the progress of my stories, from my very first story, the way I scripted it, the angle that I took and everything was so amateur. I'd just come out of school and I hadn't really had a lot of experience putting the theory into practice. But with Solutions Now Africa, with each story that goes, with each story that I put on the desk, I learn and I grow. My scripting develops, my eye for the news grows.
To be able to tell stories that I've seen cause change, like for example, I told a story about startups by youth who are using technology to attract youth back to agriculture, and then telling that story and seeing people coming and saying, yeah, this is a great story. I think it was my biggest milestone.
For me, it is being able to get over my fears of talking to people. I'm a very chatty person, but people don't know that I actually get scared to actually talk to people. So for me, overcoming that and knowing that I can engage someone and have a story told.
If there is one word to describe my experience, challenging. Challenging because, yes, I wanted to be a reporter and this was my dream. However, I didn't know what it takes to actually be what I wanted. I didn't know it had to take me to start apologizing. I didn't know I had to meet deadlines. I didn't know that all those things were going to happen. However, I'm so thankful.
I would really put two projects at the forefront. We did a project in Kalangala for Hack, and then we did another on Strong Minds. Following the people and being immersed in the lives they live is quite a different experience. I remember me and the team had to go get a boat. It was quite scary for some people, although I had fun. Yeah, going to the island and seeing how people actually live, living their lives, being in their lives, and knowing the problems they face was a story enough for me to come back and tell it. And I believe every time I come back after doing that, I can tell the story better because I am the story then. I walked through the lives of the people I'm trying to talk about, so it puts me in a better position to talk about them.
In my university, when I was studying journalism, they taught us Journalism 101. Bad news makes the best story. But at Solutions Now Africa, we believe that that should not be the case. There is so many more people in the world that are doing amazing things to change status quo in negative situations around the community. And I think that the more we do it as Solutions Now Africa, the more other journalistic entities are going to wake up to this. We're going to wake up to the fact that yes, you can begin by addressing this is the problem that is at hand, but go the next step. Don't stop there. Show what is being done and what can be done about the terrible, depressing, and horrible things that are happening in the world. So I think that we're going to be pioneering something amazing on a global status.
For me, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, I see a traditional media picking up and saying, yes, we are going to report about this corrupt official, but we are also going to report about this other official that is not corrupt.
As a journalist and storyteller, I believe what we're doing is not to change the mindset. We are trying to show possibilities. So some of these possibilities are being done by our very own people in the community. So we're here to show them that not only what you see on traditional media is what is actually happening, but there are great things that people are doing to solve some of these problems.
African challenges are quite broad, but as a publication, we believe that if we are able to amplify innovations and initiatives by different communities across Uganda, we are able to tell the rest of Africa that the challenges that you have in your communities can be dealt with. You can replicate these exact models, and together we can, try to redefine. I am happy that we are at the stage where we are using the discipline of journalism to create the world a better place for everyone.
Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. Another round of applause for Solutions Now Africa. Now, I don't want to waste any more of your time, but allow me introduce our partners that are about to say a couple of words to us. And this evening, we have a representative for Konrad Adenauer Stiftung, Miss Judith Atim, and also we'll have Mr. Jonathan Tusubida, DW Academy. Yes, but first, let's hear from Miss Judith Atim, Konrad Adenauer Stiftung.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Can we have some energy? Good evening. Your young people, speak like you have energy. Thank you. My name is Judith Atim. I'm from Konrad Adenauer Stiftung, but you can call us CAS if it's too complicated. We are partners with MCI, but allow me to also say thank you to the partners who've also made this day a success. That is DW Academy and Africa No Filter. Without you, without your support, I'm sure this day wouldn't have been the success that it is. We are very proud to partner with MCI, and we're also so proud to see how far MCI has come. Every day, there's so much growth that takes place at this hub. Through MCI, we are so happy that today we have a new child in the house that is Solutions Now Africa. We're also happy about the different products and platforms that MCI has created, all in the name of promoting good journalism. The Debunk Show, Native Law, and so many other platforms that MCI creates to promote good journalism in the country, and not just in the country, but across Africa and across the world. We are immensely proud to be associated with MCI. Now, when Moki Makura was delivering her keynote, she talked about so many things that we relate to as Africans. The kind of narratives and frames that dominate Western media and the kind of perceptions this create about the continent. The broad themes really that have shaped the African story. Poverty, like she talked about, disease, conflict, war, poor leadership, bad governance, just to name it. And the impression out there has to change. Africa, Uganda has so much more to offer the world. I'll tell you, 2 weeks ago or so, we were here with a delegation of German MPs from the federal state of Saxony. We were here for the Innovation Fireplace. I'm sure some of you were here or you've heard of it. And this place was a hotbed of innovation and talent. So many young people were here to showcase so many products or services that they're innovating, from agriculture to technology to media to so many spheres of life. And then you can sit, and that's a very small percentage of young people who are innovating. And these are positive stories that are shaping and impacting lives in huge ways. So you can ask yourself, just how many more innovators do we have across the continent who are doing powerful and remarkable things in this world? There are so many, but we are not telling their stories. Or if we are telling their stories, we are not telling them loud enough. That said, we also have to admit and acknowledge that there are so many ills that still bedevil our countries and our continent. We might want to tell positive stories, but we should not also be blind to the fact that bad things do happen. If there is poor accountability, if there is abuse of taxpayers' money, we should not shy away from talking about that. We still need to talk about the ills in society, because if we do not, these problems will consume us. And we shall not have an environment or a safe space where young people are able to thrive and innovate. We shall not be able to tell narratives and frames of hope because of the problems that we have. So I am also glad that when Abbas was up here talking, he made a remark that stood out for me, that when we talk about solutions journalism, we are looking at responses that create systemic change. If you do not change the entire system, then you create more problems, and you will not have positive stories to tell. So in as much as you're talking about positive stories, where the bad stories are there, we still think it's important that they should be told, but also provide a solution. If there is corruption, what is the solution? If we are told we're a middle-income country, and the next day we realize we are not, why are we not? What are we doing to get there? What should we do right? We need to question these things. So I am so happy that with Solutions Now Africa, we are going to see a new, better form of journalism being done. And it is my prayer and hope that this does not just stop here at the hub, that this is adopted in newsrooms, in different media organizations, across the country and across the world. We need to make journalism responsive to the needs of people. We need to make journalism better. And Solutions Now Africa provides us this perfect opportunity to change things for better. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Miss Atim. A round of applause for Miss Atim. Thank you so much. Now, we are going to also have another short message from the representative from DW Academy, and that is Mr. Jonathan Tusubira. Mr. Jonathan, you're welcome.
Thank you very much. Congratulations to Abbas and the team on Solutions Now. I bring greetings from my colleagues, Miriam, Dorcas, and Katarina, who would have loved to be here, but they are not able. Miriam is on leave, and Dorcas had to be in office. But they are really happy about this, and we wish you all the best. DW Academy has been supporting grassroots media houses for the last 7 years in building structures, but also building their capacities to be able to report local news affordably. And we are so happy that in the next 3 years, in partnership with MCI, we are going to be able to bridge the gap so that the stories that are reported at the local level in the grassroots are able to reach the national level. And we believe that together with MCI, these platforms that they've created here at the hub are going to be the same platforms that will enable news stories from the local level to reach the national level. So we are really excited for the next 3 years. We are looking forward to seeing some of the solutions journalism stories that are not only coming from the city, but are coming from the grassroots, deep down where the media doesn't reach, or sometimes it is expensive to cover stories. So thank you so much for allowing us to be a part of this journey, and we wish you all the best. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Jonathan Tusubira, all the way from DW Academy. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me introduce and welcome Mr. Tony Kijana to come and say a few words to us. He is the spokesperson, U.S. Mission. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Tony Kujawa here with the U.S. Mission in Uganda. Just wanted to, applaud these efforts, this endeavor. This is new, this is different. This hasn't happened before in Uganda, and it's very powerful and inspiring to learn more about the reporting that has already happened and is going to happen toward the future through Solutions Now Africa. So congratulations on this birthday launch, and wish you every success toward a very, very bright future for Uganda and the entire continent.
Thank you so much, Mr. Anthony Kujawa. Maybe before you go, a quick question for you in just 30 seconds. What's the difference between a mission and an embassy? Because we don't know, some of us. But Edgar, I don't know.
Yeah.
Let me not say we.
It's sort of complicated, right? So we are the U.S. Embassy Kampala, but we have many different U.S. government agencies represented here, like U.S. Agency for International Development, USAID, the CDC, Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, Peace Corps. So when we speak broadly about all of these different U.S. government agencies in Uganda under one umbrella, we call that U.S. Mission Uganda.
All right.
But we're also the embassy. It's one and the same.
Okay, so the difference is the similarity. Thank you so much, Mr. Anthony Kujawa. What a privilege to have you here.
Yeah, I think, let's just move on to this part of the evening, because I think people are like, when is the cocktail and when is... But well,
deep down
we
they're
are
asking those questions.
Yes, we are asking. But without much further ado, ladies and gentlemen, allow me call back Mr. Mpindi Abbas to welcome the chief guest.
You're welcome, sir. A round of applause for Mr. CEO. Hey, very, very smart. Thank you so much, sir.
I would like to first and foremost recognize the presence of Mr. Julius Muchunguzi from the Office of the Prime Minister. So in this work that we do, there are always people that meet you, see potential, and then keep an eye on you. So Julius has kept an eye on Media Challenge Initiative ever since we met. And he's been there to support professionally, morally, and guide. And those are rare friends that you meet. So thank you so much, Julius. We invited the Uganda Communications Commission, and particularly because we really want to work with the Uganda Communications Commission. One, we have a big facility now, and our dream is that this kind of journalism moves away from just being online to actually being able to be received by people on TVs and radio. So we have a radio studio and we have a TV studio. The structure is already there. So our partnership with UCC, I hope that, I'm sorry that it's coming now, but I really wanted to emphasize it that in advance, that one of the things that we really need is to be able to get a youth TV channel, which we are fundraising for, that the next time you will see solution stories now on a TV, you will see fact-checked stories on TV, you'll be able to see sign language as its own program on a TV station. So hopefully that works out. I have Julius here as well, so maybe we can talk about that as well. But please put your hands up together and welcome with me Mr. Medi Kagwa, who is here with us. If I'm not mistaken, Director of Media and Content at UCC. Thank you so much. You get the smoke. You're welcome, sir.
Thank you. Okay. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I want to share something personal. You know, about 3 days back, we received an email an invite. They're asking us to come and officiate. You can imagine the busy schedule you have had a whole week. Someone tells you you need to come at 4:30. You don't know what MCI is. Something new. So, luckily enough, I have a patient in Zambia. So I'm like, this is an excuse to actually solve all the problems. You go visit someone, then pass by and say a few things and disappear. So first I ask Abbas, I call him, so where is Media Challenge Initiative? So this talks about what we have been doing wrong as Uganda. Okay? So this is how Abbas describes the venue. You know Lashetu? So you can clearly see that for him to think that for me to understand the location, he needs to mention something foreign, classy. He expects me maybe to think that's where I have the dinner. So I tell him, no, actually I don't. Then he mentions, okay, there is Tilupati Mazima Mall. So for me, who is gray-haired, I start figuring out where did I see the building. Kabalagala, I see one in Kamocha. So I get confused, saying, okay, drop me a pin. He says, no, okay. You reach there, you call me. So as I drive, I say I've been driving the whole week, I need to walk. So I walk from Zambia, it's roughly half a kilometer or 1 kilometer to here. I stand across the road, I see Tipati Mazima Mall. I look outside everywhere, there's no branding. And all the people around are very busy walking left, right, and center. So I approach the security people. I want to go to MCI. Where? What? Say, okay, is there a training hub here? Then I remembered I read somewhere rooftop. So I say, I want to access the rooftop. So the man points up. Now, interestingly, the front part of that still has no branding of MCI. So I say, no, let me just walk around. Maybe I'll be impressed. Now, we officials and my brother Emmanuel will tell you, when you're invited as guest of honor, they are usually ushers and people handhold you. So I first go down. Now, there are 3 ramps to the first basement. So I'm walking. Interestingly, finally, it's the MCI, and it is at the rooftop. Now I say, so I have to go up 1, 2, 3, 4. So I get to the floor just below this one, and I come out from the other side. Now when I walk, the other side is locked. Okay? So I walk back. As I was thinking of abandoning the mission, I see a young girl going up. I say, let me follow. So I follow, I get to the reception. The young lady there's music playing. She also has earphones, so you have to be polite. Good afternoon. Yes, you are here for what? I'm here for the MCI. You are from? Please register. You register, then she tells you, go out, turn left, turn right, turn left, inside there. I'm like, did I come to the wrong place? Or is there another MCI where I'm supposed to be? So I walk in, the lady in red ushers me to the seat, and I have what was written. Okay? So for the 30 minutes I've been seated here, 3 things have happened. 1, congratulations for this. As UCC and the government of Uganda, we have enough people reporting what is wrong. We have enough. All media houses, all that is shared on social media, we want to sell controversy. And I think this initiative gives the 360 angle, which is what was lacking, to give a balanced opinion so that the public knows that in Uganda it is not all about gloom and doom. So allow me congratulate Abbas and the team for putting this together. Allow me congratulate all the partners and all those names, you forgive my Luganda, I will just say CAS and DW. Please, thank you. 2, to the young gentleman who read out the poem. That is amazing talent. You know, as UCC, we regulate the film industry. And one of the things all the international judges say is, you have wonderful stories. They are wrongly written. And why they are wrongly written is, we try to copy what we consume of mass media and try to implant it into these stories. So you will have stories that are wonderful, but then end up selling negativity. We are not saying do not talk about the negativity, because the negativity hooks and drags you in. But every human being is looking for hope. Let us give stories and 360 coverage that inspires and gives hope to the human race. So I still miss the name. I just picked self-styled fashionista. I would love to have a deeper conversation on how we as UCC could help. Thirdly, Abbas mentioned something where he needs to do TV, radio, etc. We will help. But there are basics. There are basics that need to be covered. As UCC, I think it was 2 or 3 weeks back, we did call for proposals on how youths in Uganda can be impacted by multimedia skilling and training that is impactful. How I wish Abbas had invited me to this much, much earlier, because I think if Abbas and team could invite us as UCC to come and have a look at this, because what is inside here is not represented when you're driving along the road. And for us, when we receive thousands and thousands of proposals, and for most of them, you find it difficult to see the impact at the end. But for MCI, for only the 1 hour I've been seated here, there are many things I can see that can end up being impactful, and how we could work together and improve. So I do not want to drag you into reading what was written for me. I'll just say, 1, I'm personally happy to have been here. My mindset of the strides we have had in terms of journalism has changed, because as UCC, we are struggling with journalists in big media houses to tell them that it is you to build and destroy your country at the same time. So this initiative that gives us 360 angle, because we have had parents tell us that their kids in school are told to go as part of, what is it called, homework? Home study? Tell them what is in the media. But the stories the kids write about and report back to school has had the teachers second guess whether that is fruitful. We'll give examples. Bukedde, agataliko, fufu. People are cutting each other, and we do not try to think through what is the cause, what is the solution, how can we inspire hope and development. So allow me congratulate MCI Initiative. I don't know if it's a birthday or not, but as UCC, we celebrate this alternative type of storytelling, and I hope that we go beyond just celebrating equally this. Would love to have this conversation beyond the room. Allow me congratulate you once again, and thank you for listening.
Thank you so much, sir. And on behalf of my team, really apologies for the lots of things that went wrong. We will definitely do better next time when we invite you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, now, without even wasting any more time, I want to invite our partners to come here. We'll cut this ribbon. And the next thing we'll do is show you one story so that you're able to see the production capacity and storytelling around whatever we are talking about before you go, before I have a cocktail and band. And then for those who have not been here before, we will also be able to show you what we have, the studio spaces and the training spaces. So our partners, please come join us. That's right. Perfect. Oh, yeah. Tony, would you join us? I think we're going to be behind here. Yes. Please come. Solutions now. Team. Why are you leaving me to enjoy your fame? Please come. This is your time. Band nga temukuba. Soundtrack ziriwa. All right, guys, clap for this team. They've been here for 6 months, and the work they've been able to do is really amazing. Please come here. I shouldn't even be there. Go there. Go in there. You're the ones cutting. I'll just do the counting. Just put your hand up. At the count of 1, 2, 3, please go. 1, 2, 3. Congratulations. Thank you so much.
All right.
Please, a round of applause for them once again. All right, please, you can take your seats. Thank you so much.
Yes. Thank you, thank you, thank you. All right. Thank you so much.
The video. Africa, Africa.
Yeah.
Now I see what
Thank you.
happens. You're developing a different solution. No.
Thank you, the band. Thank you so much. Because
Yes. You still want to
thank you so much, our lovely J Afrique band. When these guys start to do music, they don't want to stop.
Yes.
Thank you so much, everybody who has come through. Today, it's been a pleasure having you at the MCI Hub. This is an innovation space for various innovators in the media. Come through anytime. And by the way, there are people who are watching us live on Zoom and streaming on our social media platforms. Yes. Thank you so much. We are trending number 2.
Well
guys,
done.
applause. Number 2,
Well
SNA.
done. Yes, they've
launch.
done amazing.
We are trending number 2. So we need to become number 1. So keep retweeting, keep tweeting, SNA launch.
Yes.
Thank you.
And of course, don't forget the hashtag Africa Fast.
You are listening
yes,
to this
and
voice.
do go ahead and follow at Solutions Now
You are
Africa
listening to this
right
voice.
about now.
How
yes?
about your hustle?
You
Talk
are
about
listening
My
your
to
hustle.
this
before we
voice.
get done.
First of all, who do
You
you
are
be?
listening
Who
to
do we
this
have?
voice.
We have
There is a chance.
a news anchor,
If you
a
are
journalist,
listening to
a
this
fact
voice.
checker from
You
Debunk
are
Media
listening to
Initiative.
this
I think the easier question is, what don't you
may
do?
not relate
What don't
to
I
the-
do? I
We'll
don't do
come back to
poetry.
that.
You are listening to
Ladies
this
and
voice.
gentlemen, allow
There
us
is
to
a
take you
chance
to
you
one
may
more
not
video
relate to the
of
plight
the
of the
stories that have been happening at Solutions Now Africa.
If you are
Come with
listening
me on this journey.
If you are listening to this voice, there is a chance you may not relate to the plight of the deaf. Today, we pray and dine with Faith at her favorite church and cafe. Faith has been deaf since 7. Life after was not easy, as you may guess, but she's living it now. Come with me. Let's move on this journey together. We are at the Namirembe Cathedral worship space, dedicated to the deaf by the Church of Uganda outfit. People who belong to the deaf community in and around Kampala gather here every Sunday morning to practice their right of worship just like any other citizen. My host for the day immediately gets her hands busy. Close to 100 believers are in attendance, awaiting the priest, who is also deaf. This service follows the normal Anglican routine: offertory, testimonies, and the sermon. After winding it up, the priest catches up with the youth before Solutions Now Africa has its turn with him too.
The bishop accepted that we start a ministry here, and he gave us this place. We also have an office here. We have weekly programs like on Wednesday, Tuesday, Thursday, and also on Sunday. We have different programs. We have fellowship and guidance and counseling during the week. Different programs, really. But we thank God because we have so many deaf people here right now, and the church is growing.
There are thousands of deaf people living in the capital Kampala, but their places of worship are limited. The Anglican Church boasts of only 3 places of worship. The only other 2 are located in the outskirts of Ntinda and Makerere. This religion is estimated to have over 10 million members countrywide. Faith is not done with us yet. We are to catch a meal at her favorite hangout. On a motorbike, she directs us there, Nankulabe, in the outskirts of the Kampala city. This is Silent Cafe. For the deaf, by the deaf. Every worker here is deaf. They, however, welcome anyone with a sign language chat to help them make orders.
I love to do something that I love with passion that can change someone's life or other people's lives. So we hope that this shop successfully continues to grow to inspire other deaf persons or people with disabilities.
Senyondo set out to start the eatery with the view to promote inclusion, but he has an interesting view of what inclusion should be.
Your body is okay. You can support a person with a general impairment, and also a person with a disability can be able to help you in some way or another. That is the true inclusion. It is not that it is just one way that you are supposed to help a disabled person. No, we are supporting each other. We work together, we work together, we eat together, we benefit together. So what is that? That is inclusion. Because we people with disabilities, when we say inclusion, they think we are begging for mercy and empathy. No, it is to change the story in a positive way, where we can contribute. Everyone can contribute to the community and to the development of a nation.
As expected, such a unique shot at innovation cannot come with no challenge.
The challenge is for people who know how to read and write. I'll give you an example. See, we have this sticker note here. When you come and know how to write and read, you write for us what you need, and we can give you the menu, and you tell us exactly what you want. But we should be aware that not all people know how to read and write. When we get someone who can't read and write, that is where the challenge comes from. So we had an idea where we show people a photo or something that is visual that you can point to. In general terms, I think the impact is both ways.
I became deaf at the age of 7. Afterward, I had many challenges because I did not have someone to sponsor me in school. And now that I got into a deaf community, my life has changed and I am proud of myself. I feel good. It has really changed my life since I have where I can go and communicate with people easily.
Though deliberate efforts to include the deaf have been made in the education sector in Uganda, there is little or no evidence to show that policymakers or authorities have been intentional in facilitating comfortable social spaces. The over 1.4 million deaf people in Uganda face many challenges that include unemployment, social isolation, and public health related ones. Such innovations can only go a long way to closing the gap
for deaf persons. Now, innovation started by deaf people themselves and are owned by deaf people. This enterprise is quite important and quite wonderful because they hope to show that the world that the deaf people can do anything.
While enjoying her lunch, Kamanzi is catching up on the news that happened throughout the week. She's watching Science TV, a news channel that curates content for the deaf. Several media outlets produce content that normally leaves no room for inclusivity or inclusiveness for the deaf. For this one, she is glued.
Your sign language TV channel.
Hello everyone.
I work with one of the media houses in Uganda as a sign language interpreter. Because first of all, it's very small, and when the deaf person is trying to get the communication that I'm putting forward, it's not really clear because the box is very small. We have deaf anchors who do the news, and they anchor the news in sign language in the deaf way.
The road to leveling the playing field for people with disabilities is one we can easily talk about, but slow to make happen. Just like Senyonde mentioned, from the streets to markets to offices and homes, we live and complement each other. In everything we do or create, are you playing your part? My name is Dan Ayebade.